every day or every night is having an episode of bedwetting. So it gets less as they grow older, and that is something they can have hope for, that for majority of them they will outgrow it.
How then do you deal with the situations where people carry on this to adulthood?
So by the time you're having these concerns of bedwetting, it would be good, one, to be reviewed by a medical practitioner or your doctor. So at one, we can try and find out, is there any underlying condition or disease that's causing this bedwetting, or is the bedwetting not secondary to anything else? There are some habits and also management of stressors that can be done. Some we've already mentioned, like for restricting fluids in the evening. For those who it helps, but during the day they're encouraged to take as much fluids as they can, encouraging them to completely empty their urine, having the habit of voiding fully before they go to bed in the evening, waking up at night if they have the urge to pass urine, because for some of them, if they are fearful of waking up at night, they might hold it off. Then also at times, if they are stressed, you might find if there are some stressful life events occurring, someone who didn't have the episode can start developing it. But for those who are reviewed in hospital, there are some who even some medications might need to be started if and when it is warranted.
What are these other causes of bedwetting? You said, so we got the physio, and then we've got the psychological side. You said if there's something that is stressing the child, it could manifest in bedwetting.
Okay.
What are these things?
So you might find in children, maybe if there's a new child who's been born, so now their older siblings are big brothers and big sisters. This is a new change in the environment, which might manifest because they are yet to adjust to the new environment and the interactions in the home. So that can trigger. Some of the other stressors that can be there is maybe if there's any loss in the family or maybe any parental separation. Also, you might find that if there is any bullying that is happening either at school or even in the home, or any abuse, so anything that can contribute to stress, this can also contribute to the bedwetting becoming more frequent or even starting at that point.
When a child comes to you, when the child is brought to you and you maybe they've even come on something completely different, are you able to detect some of these things?
Okay. For some of them, you might detect them because they might have maybe the smell. You can sense the smell of urine. Some of them, the parents might even communicate to you that they're having this additional concern where they're bedwetting. So that is one of the other ways that you can have that. Then also at times you might find, because of, especially if there's frequent bedwetting, they might have some irritation in the genital area because of the leakage of urine that's irritating in that area.
So what do you do in such cases?
Okay. So when you have such child or adolescent or person in front of you, or what we try and find out is, when did this bedwetting start? How frequent is it happening? Are they having any extra or additional symptoms other than the bedwetting, the ones they had mentioned earlier? They go to the bathroom very many times, they're straining to pass urine, they're not able to completely void, they're having pain anywhere. You find out if they're having symptoms that can point to other conditions. For example, someone who was completely dry, then they started wetting themselves. Then you see maybe they say they're drinking a lot, passing a lot of urine, even they're losing weight. You can think of diagnosis like diabetes, which can contribute to this. You might find some children, you're being told that they're chronically snoring. You see most of the time they're breathing through their mouth because their nose is blocked, something that we call obstructive sleep apnea. So for those ones, they might also have episodes of bedwetting, and when you deal with the underlying condition, it will settle down. For some of them, you might see when they're walking into your examination room or in your office, how they walk is a little bit different. Or when you examine them, you see at their lower back where the spine is, you're seeing something that is different from what it should be. You start suspecting things like conditions affecting the spinal cord. Things like constipation. It's quite common, but it can also contribute to bedwetting, because when they are constipated and they have a lot of stool in their stomach, in their abdomen area, the bladder is not able to hold as much urine as it should be able to do that. And for others, they might just have what we call bladder instability. They are saying that the bladder keeps contracting, so they keep emptying the urine. During the day, they might manage to go to the bathroom many times, but at night, it can manifest as bedwetting. So there are quite a number of other additional conditions which might have with this as the symptom, and other, when you just examine the child, things that can contribute to them having this.
Okay, let's take a break and we'll continue this conversation shortly. On this Health Friday, the 25th day of August, we are hosting Dr. Mercy Githumbi. She is a pediatrician. She is here so we can talk about bedwetting in children and teens. It's a big concern for many, and we want to understand what causes it and then what they do about it. Keep it here. We'll be back shortly. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Jimmy Garth live. This is a man's show where we talk about politics, men talk, sports, anything that spells man. Does your partner communicate in any way? Be it financially, be it sexually, be it heart to heart. That's a communication that you will never hear in a marriage counseling session.
So the most important thing is just be honest with yourself.
Jimmy Garth Live happens every Saturday from 2 to 7.
Only on 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
This is how we get down.
The sun is piercing through those clouds in Nairobi. It's 12 degrees, highs of 26, and we'll see lows of 12 today. Sunny at 12 in Nakuru, highs of 28, and we'll see highs of 25. In a sunny Nyeri at 13, coming down to lows of 12. It's sunny at 13 in Eldoret, highs of 26 and lows of 11, and mostly cloudy conditions in Mombasa at 24, highs of 29 and lows of 23. We'll see highs of 29 as well, and lows of 24 in a mostly sunny Malindi at 25. It's sunny at 20 in Kisumu, highs of 31, and 31 will also be the high in a sunny Kakamega at 17. It's 19 and sunny in Kampala, highs of 29, and 30 will be the high in Dar es Salaam, where it's mostly cloudy at 24. It's 10 degrees and cloudy in Johannesburg, highs of 23 and lows of 8. It's 25 and cloudy in Lagos, highs of 30. And we'll see highs of 31 in a partly cloudy Kinshasa at 23.
Spice and everything nice. All right.
Spice up your life.
Not too much to contend with this morning. We're seeing some of it still coming off the Thika Superhighway all the way through to Pangani at the underpass. Whatever was happening before at the Garden City exit, that seems to have dwindled, so fantastic. Also looking at traffic then starting to come off of Kitisuru. It's all going to join with what's coming off of Ruaka through towards Limuru Road, and that's going to be busy for some time getting into the city. The Eastern Bypass also giving some through towards the Ruai Junction, also some of that coming in from North Airport Road, going towards Outer Ring at the junction. That's probably the most of it for now. Let's see what happens as we're getting into traffic hour proper now. So let's just agree. Tweet on X for now. We'll talk about the rest of those details later. All right? Spice FM, KE.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM.
Mercy Githumbi, general pediatrician. We're talking about bedwetting in children and teens on this Health Friday. Actually, does it end after teenage?
So with regards to ending 4, as the children are growing older, the episodes become less and less. So for majority of them, they will outgrow the condition. But for some few, it might persist for longer. But for when it reaches that situation, it's where they need to be reviewed and assessed, and they might need to have some medication or other medical interventions put in place. But for majority of them, they do outgrow it.
You know, the psychological aspect of bedwetting is what's actually on my mind. The proverb today dealt with shame. And it looks like the predominant emotion in this particular discussion is shame. One feels ashamed that they have wet the bed. Now, would diapers help? Because the advent of diapers, we moved from children to adolescents to adults. Because with diapers then, even if an episode occurred, the damning evidence
would not be there.
Yes, would either not be there or would be limited extensively. Yes.
Okay. So shame is one of the main things that usually concerns them. The psychological effect, people knowing that this happened, especially in the adolescents, children who are in boarding schools, at times even at home, so they fear they're going to be, or even not just fearing, they are actually bullied or even shamed, or people talk about it, and this gives them more stress. Diapers in themselves, no specific evidence, that is what I would say, is recommended for them to routinely wear diapers, especially for the, let's say, the younger child. You might find if they have a diaper, they might know, because I have this in place, I don't have to wake up if they have the urge to go to the bathroom. So they might continue passing into the diaper because they know since it's there, I can empty into that. But for the older ones, it would be better if they're able to wake up, they can wake up and go to the bathroom, and the Macintosh has been put in place. Some have actually used diapers so that, because some accidents you're not completely able to wake up and it still happens, or even some bed linings which can be changed. So diapers not routinely recommended, but some may use them just to reduce the soiling of the beds, which, because everyone will know, and the neighbors, they say every time they're taking the mattress out, and people do not want such things being shown.
Of the cases that you've encountered, is it the parents who come, that is in children of course, who report the matter to you? Or is it something that just comes up in conversation? And if that is the case, as medical practitioners, do you walk parents through the possibility of this occurrence and how one would best deal with it if it did occur, just as a matter of routine when parents come to see you? Which is which?
Okay. So it comes both ways. There are some who come specifically because they are concerned by this age the child should not be bedwetting, or even the adolescent. So what is possibly causing it? What can we do to help? But there are some who come with other problems. Then when you probe deeper, you'll actually find that has come up. Most of the time it's the parent who's more concerned. The child might hide because they are fearful or ashamed of what might be thought of them. There are people thinking that they're not doing enough to try and stop this. But it can come both ways. You might find out as extra information as you're querying, or it might be even the primary reason why they have brought the child to be seen in hospital.
What kind of therapy do you then subject the patient to?
So the therapy is usually what we call in two prongs. One is supportive, things that they can manage to do at home, support and counseling, because at times it might actually significantly affect the child, lower their self-esteem, and make them feel low about themselves, and even in future, especially if it persists, can contribute to things like depression. So counseling the parents and also the child with how to deal with such episodes when they occur, so that the parent or even the guardian doesn't get angry, because at times that might also contribute to stress for the child. Let them both know that it's not because any of them did anything wrong or didn't do anything. Telling them about habits that we have already talked about that they can do at home, assessing and investigating for other possible causes, including like maybe for some of them even check, as I had mentioned, things like constipation, even infections of the urinary system, something we call urinary tract infections. Those ones can contribute to bedwetting. So that's also some things that we can investigate and see. Talking to them about how to maybe having diaries, so that one, we can see the trend of the episodes, and when you're putting an intervention, you're able to follow up to see if it's improving. If they're still not improving, we can also refer them to specialists. For some of them, they even started on some medication when it is needed to help reduce these episodes of bedwetting.
At what point would one, as a parent, then think that it was necessary to come in to see a doctor? And even before that, what are some things that can be done at home to help with the situation before that comes into play?
So some parents might be prompted to come to hospital, especially maybe if they have 2 children close in age. They find the younger one has already achieved dryness, but the older one is not achieving dryness. You might find that's a reason that prompts them to come. Some might be delayed because the other sibling had bedwetting. It progressed until they were older, but it eventually cleared. Or even they themselves, as the parents, had this bedwetting when they were younger, and they eventually outgrew it. So the timing usually depends. Also, if it is distressing to the family and the parents, because for some of them they might not find it as distressing, so it might not even be they might not consider it a concern. But the more distressing it is for them, the more likely they are to come to hospital for the child to be reviewed.
You mentioned something that piqued my interest. A parent may think, I went through the same thing, so if my child is going through the same thing, they'll overcome. Is it hereditary?
Yes, there is a genetic component to it, or what we'd call a hereditary component to it. You find that if one of the parents had bedwetting, there is a 50% probability of the child having bedwetting.
50%?
Yes, so around 50% of children who had bedwetting, one of the parents had.
If both parents had?
That's around 75%. And you might find in 15% no one else in the family has it. If you have like maybe twins, you might find if they're identical twins, if one has bedwetting, the other one is likely to have it. Compared to the ones who are not identical, it might be a bit less. So there is a genetic component that has been identified to contribute to this. But irrespective of the cause, generally for the management of all of them tends to be roughly overlapping.
The same.
You've mentioned several times that at some point for the majority of these children who start bedwetting, and then that they will grow out of it, or that it will come to an end. Does it just phase off, or is there something that happens that say, okay, well, does it now click in their heads, or are they then able to wake themselves to go to relieve themselves at night? What happens? Is there a process of events? And if something was happening that made them do this for this long period of time, and then after some time we just see it disappear, is there something that happens that triggers that to stop?
So for some of them, they can outgrow it because of how their nervous system is maturing, because that's one of the factors that contribute to the bladder control. Because you might find the ones who have also delays in other milestones, they might have delay in this milestone. For some of them, when they have been reviewed in hospital and they are found maybe to have like what you call the bladder instability, or the muscles which help prevent the urine from draining at the outlet of the bladder, some of them are even sent for therapy to help increase the strength of what you call the pelvic floor muscles, so that when they have the urge, they're at least able to hold the urine, so that they can manage to go to the bathroom and empty their urine. For some of them, because the bladder is what we are calling is overactive, it tends to contract and keep emptying the urine. In addition to the pelvic floor muscles, those are some of them who can benefit even for some medications which help reduce that overactivity of the bladder, and also by treating the underlying conditions. Maybe if they have infections of the urinary tract systems or their urinary bladder, you might find if you treat that, the problem will resolve. If they are constipated and you treat that, you might find they also have resolution of the symptoms. At times, if there's any stressors and you deal with those stressors either at school or at home or even in the community, it can help slowly reduce this. So this, in addition to the ones who just outgrow, it's like they learn. The muscles and the nerves learn with time. That one will eventually happen for majority of them, although even if it is not all.
Why would a child be so aware during the day that, well, I mean, I guess this because we're talking about, we're talking about the same nervous system. It's the same one during the day. It's the same one at night. I don't think it changes.
It's the same one.
So even though they're in a situation of being awake, why would the system be aware that it is time to go, but even at night, even though you're asleep, then I know that everything is kind of dulled down when you're sleeping, but then how would you then be able to translate? Doesn't a child who does not have a problem going to the bathroom during the day, they could be in the middle of play, they can stop, they can go to the washroom, come back and continue. But then at night, the same system doesn't allow them to perform the same action. Why is that?
Okay, so this happens in some different ways. One of the ways is usually there's hormones which are produced in the body. Then at night, one of the hormones is usually reproduced at a smaller volume, so that you have less production of urine. For some children or even some adolescents and adults, the level of hormone of this hormone produced during the day and the night is the same. So even at night, you might find the urine amount that's being produced is increased. Mm-hmm. Then too, the other one that I had mentioned was arousability. Mm-hmm. Ideally, when your bladder starts contracting, you're almost aroused to wake up to go to the bathroom. For those who sleep very deeply, you might find they're not able to become fully aroused, so they start draining or passing urine before they are fully alert. And also at night, you should have coordination, so that even when your bladder is contracting, the pelvic floor muscles or the muscles at the bladder neck should ideally contract so that it doesn't empty, so that the urine is left in the bladder. So at times, if those muscles relax a bit, even if the bladder is not filled to capacity, that small volume might still leak. So it's most of the time the arousability and deep sleep contributes, but there's also other components, including the hormones. And also you might find children have been playful, doing a lot of things during the day. They're dehydrated. They come the last 2 to 3 hours before they go to bed. They drink lots of things. They take lots of caffeinated or even sugary things. In our Kenyan community, I used to take in a lot of tea, which also has some caffeine. But also all these things can promote production of more urine, so it can contribute to them passing more urine at night, because they drink a lot in the evening, the last few hours, and you might find they didn't take as much during the day, and lots of sugary and caffeinated drinks also.
So you doctors have competition, and this one big doctor that's called Dr. Google, and parents will now go to Google and say Google says this, and then they'll come and form their harambe of Dr. Google trained parents and have solutions as to what should happen. So some questions coming in already, and folks have already heard about medication. Give your child this kind of hormone treatment or supplements. Does this even work? Is this even a possible thing to do when it comes to bedwetting as an issue?
Okay. There's no specific hormones or treatment that should just be given without the directions of a medical practitioner, because one, we need to first find out what is contributing to this bedwetting. And most of these medications, majority of the patients might not need it, but for those who do receive the medicines that are necessary, it's under the guidance of a doctor. So at one, we assess, is the dose appropriate? Is it effective or not? Because for some, you might still start the medication, but it's actually not beneficial to them. But going and saying you saw this medicine work and bought it over the counter, that is not a recommendation. By the time any medication needs to be started, it would be highly advisable for the child or the adolescent to be reviewed by a doctor. At times, even where it is necessary, there's referrals to what we call pediatric nephrologists, urologists, or even other specialists, depending on what the underlying cause is, so that we get the proper treatment and the best outcome for the child.
How do you treat cases where your patient is in boarding school and they need to come see you, and they're going through what they're going through in boarding school?
Okay, so one of the things is this forum is an important forum, educating the public so that they know this is a common problem. It affects many people. It's not the fault of the person. So people should not be punished or shamed, because you might find even in schools this is happening, which contributes to additional stress, which affects the child. Other things is if they can have support, like for the Macintoshes, maybe extra bed linens, so that if they do have accidents, they are able to do that. Also to encourage teachers, and also like in dormitories, because it used to be once you're in the dormitory and you're in bed, you can't leave. Even if you have the urge, and for someone who has this condition, it would be beneficial for them to go to the bathroom. During the day, especially even like in the smaller children, they have to wait till specific timed breaks, which will not be beneficial to them. So even at times you need to communicate to the teachers. If the child has the urge, let the child know they can ask for permission to go to the bathroom, and let the teacher be willing to give them the permission to go to the bathroom, because this can also contribute so that they don't develop habits of trying to hold urine, which can also make the situations worse. And for the ones even like in boarding schools and in the older ones, it reaches a point once you've assessed and seen other possible causes and ruled out, we at times need to start the medication to help reduce this.
Have you ever had to deal with a case where one of your patients is in boarding school and then now you have also to deal with the school administration to speak to them for them to understand their student so that then the student is facilitated, like you're saying?
Yes, such situations have happened. So at times you even need to write maybe a note to the school.
And you give the child to take?
Yes, so that they can be taken to school so that they can be able to be facilitated. But also just, this is for the one who's come to you. How about all those many others who we have not seen and managed to write that note? So that's why the teachers and the public should be aware of this so that they are supportive of them.
Then that calls on the Kenya Pediatric Society.
Absolutely.
So what do you do to increase awareness about this? Because, I mean, you're talking about people who are at a very vulnerable age and then they've got to deal with this and it's something that they have zero control over, limited control over this. They're battling it. But everybody else will treat it just like you said. It's going to lead to bullying. It's going to lead to being ostracized, which will contribute to making the condition worse. The school administration, if the head teacher and the other teachers and the other school staff do not understand what is going on, then you're not helping. What are you doing as a professional body?
As a professional body, I think there's still a lot of room for things that we can do. Community education is one of the main things. These forums, discussions on such, like at Spice FM, what we are doing now, is an important part of educating the public. Hopefully there are some teachers and head teachers and parents out there who are listening to this, so that if they do have these concerns, they have opportunities even maybe to talk, have health talks in the school. Because at times if a school or even an institution wants to approach maybe a specific health facility and they need some advice, that is always open to have that done. But also, as the parents, if they have any concerns and they need such notes put in, we do it for this, or even any other concerns which are relevant, such communication is made to the school. Yes.
I shudder to think about if this information not being shared and some of the other things that we hear happening in school, and then something that can be so detrimental to the psyche of a child in this manner, and then going to school and having episodes of bedwetting and there's no support for them. And I mean, we've heard stories of children even being beaten, having to face punishment because having wet your bed when you're in high school. I mean, terrible stuff. So it just seems that if we're talking about as large a number of those who would go into teenage years having episodes of bedwetting, then a lot more needs to be done in terms of information sharing, because quite a lot of these children are going to boarding school, you know. So is it something that can be more elaborate in terms of sharing information, to understand that it's not just a child wetting their bed for lack of anything else to do at night? It's, it's not something that they can control. And then how you deal with that child after that is extremely important for their mental well-being even.
If I may just add on to what you've just said, let me just tag on to it. The Kenya Pediatrics Association has membership that traverses all these counties that we have. What stops the Kenya Pediatric Association from partnering with the bodies that primarily look after primary schools, so that you craft a program that periodically the doctors who are in those respective areas and who are your members can actually this very same information that we're talking about, so it becomes something regular. Call it a health talk, call it whatever it is you want to call it, but there is that periodic information and information passing along so that it is known. Then the Kenya Pediatrics Association can say, yes, we have partnered with this association of primary school teachers, secondary school teachers, and there's a program we have for them to ensure that the members, which are the school and the heads and the teachers and the students, know about these things. Because in a public forum in a school, when such information is talked about and an opportunity provided for questions to be asked, you begin that journey of informing people, and it won't begin and end with bedwetting. It'll continue with very many other things that are specific to this discipline that you are part of.
Yes, that is a very wonderful baton to be passed on for the Kenya Pediatric Association to do so. Also, in different hospitals, there is the public health sector. They usually have also sessions and also opportunities to interact with the publics. You've heard they usually have like sittings with the community and they talk about different conditions. At times, even when medical camps are held, maybe in some schools or some churches, these are also opportunities to create awareness with the people. Then also with these linkages, it would be a good opportunity like things, the Ministry of Health and the Ministry of Education. So at such programs dealing with common conditions can be carried out for community education. People know when to seek help, where to seek help, and also the appropriate support so that we have the best outcome for our children who are the future of our country.
You know, the Kenya Pediatric Association, I know, is one of the few medical associations that allowed membership of people who are actually non-doctors. Now, meaning anyone who is involved in one way or the other with a child can actually be a member, whether you are a medical practitioner or a parent or a... Now, an association that is far-seeing should not stop there. Create a program that has regularity and something that one can plug into and know. On this particular day, we have this session with these people.
And this is what we're doing.
And this is what we're doing. And this is our plan for this month or for the year and for whatever. So you actually become an integral part of the learning process for the teachers as well as for the students.
Yes.
Who are the teachers are parents and the students are the clients and they'll be future parents. Dr. Arwi, thank you very much for joining us today.
Okay, thank you very much. I hope it was informative. If you're having that problem out there, know you're not alone. There is help available, there is support available. So it would be good if it is a concern to be reviewed by your doctor and appropriate advice and care given. Thank you.
Asante sana. Dr. Mercy Dhombi is a general pediatrician. She's been our guest this morning talking about bedwetting in children and teens. Good morning. It's 8 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. President William Ruto has ordered the police to arrest crooks who repackage subsidized fertilizer and sell it at higher price to farmers. According to the president, the government has measures to ensure that the fertilizer reaches all registered farmers while warning corrupt individuals that they will be arrested and prosecuted. Ruto said that the fertilizer subsidy scheme is part of the strategies Kenya Kwanza has put in place to lower the cost of living. Now, the Senate Committee on Devolution has approved the upgrading of Eldoret town to a city within the next 6 months. The chairperson of the committee, Garissa Senator Abbas Mohammed, and Senator Richard Onyonka say the governor of Uasin Gishu County, Jonathan B., will be required to speed up the completion of some projects such as water, construction of the northern bypass, among other projects.
Eldoret imefika kiwango sasa lazima iwe city. Sisi tungependa kuwauliza viongozi wa Uasin Gishu County, haswa gavana wenu ajaribu asukume yale mambo ambayo yamebakia kidogo. Nadhani baada ya miezi 6 hivi Eldoret itakuwa city. Na jambo la kwanza ni kuangalia ripoti ya NEMA, Environmental Impact Assessment and Facilitation. Kuna mambo ambayo yanatengeneza juu ya maji, wameendelea hapo. Kuna mambo ambayo yanarekebisha juu ya sewage, imeendelea vizuri. Bypass ya chini imepita, ya juu ndio imebakia kidogo. So kuna mambo kidogo.
Eldoret residents have been expressing their opinion about the plan for the upgrading of the town. If Eldoret is upgraded to a city, it will join Mombasa, Nairobi, Nakuru and Kisumu. Humphrey Watanga Mulongo is the new Commissioner General of the Kenya Revenue Authority for a renewable 3-year term after taking oath of office at a ceremony presided over by Judiciary Chief Registrar Anamadi. Watanga, who was appointed by Treasury CS Njuguna Ndungu, replaces Githii Mburu, who resigned in February this year after serving for 3 years and 7 months. The new KRA boss says he will prioritize tech-driven administration and enforcement to drive revenue. He is targeting a goal of 3 trillion shillings in the 2023-2024 financial year.
We are looking to accelerate the technological advancement of KRA so that we can really utilize the great sort of digital leap, digital advancement in technology. In the last sort of few years, even in the recent past, you've seen what has happened in the area of technology. We now have machine learning modules, we have big data analytics, we have artificial intelligence. So ours is really to see how we are going to harness this advancement in technology.
Almost a week after 14,000 teachers are promoted, the Teacher Service Commission has announced another round of promotion of more than 36,000 teachers. TSC says the teachers will be promoted in 9 different grades. In the announcement, there are 12,700 and 16,000 positions for senior teachers to be promoted. 10,800 and 19,000 teachers will be promoted from primary schools. Another 700 positions are reserved for senior teachers in schools with special needs, while 216 C4 grade positions are for senior lecturers in teacher training colleges. The Commission has also announced 108 positions for senior head teachers and 34 positions for head teachers. This comes just 1 week after TSC promoted 14,000 teachers. Teachers have been asked to submit applications for promotions by September 8th through the TSC website. This happens just 1 day after President William Ruto announced his intention to promote teachers. For the field, and China has banned all seafood from Japan in response to Tokyo's decision to begin releasing treated radioactive wastewater from the Fukushima nuclear plant, dramatically escalating an already tense feud between the two neighbors. The release is part of a controversial plan that has met fierce objections from many consumers as well as some regional countries, with Beijing leading that criticism. The start of the release sparked a fiery tirade from China, which described the operation as a selfish and irresponsible act. Now, a top Russian general who went missing after the mercenary group Wagner insurrection in June has been fired from his role as head of the country's aerospace forces. This is according to Russian reports. General Sergei Surovikin has spent 4 decades as part of the Russian military, including a brief stint running Russia's war effort in Ukraine. He was put in charge of the conflict in October 2022, shortly after a major explosion severely damaged the Kerch Bridge connecting the annexed Crimean Peninsula to mainland Russia. This is Newswire. I'm Dennis Alceto. Good morning.
.5 Spice FM, Kisumu.
All right, Kiambu Road busy getting towards Muthaiga Square. We're looking at it also heavy coming on to the Pangani underpass. Now is when the folks on Limu Road are waking up and coming off the northern bypass through towards Rocca and then on towards Limu Road. Lots of traffic this morning. It's also heavy coming out of Westlands right at Waiakue, coming in from James Gishiro. That looks like it's going to be busy for a while. And then on Gong Road, some traffic as well. Who's this? This is Mombasa Road, getting out towards Cabanas and then onto North Airport Road, and we're seeing some movement as you then approach Outer Ring at the junction. So that's where most of the business is happening this morning. Keeping an eye on things, let us know. Our handle is at Spice FM KE on X. Let us know what's going on. Let's keep things moving this morning.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is the
7:08.
Situation Room.
Good morning.
The only way to
on
start.
Spice FM, on KTN Home, on YouTube, and on Facebook. You're in the market for another car, a pre-owned motor vehicle. Just go to Automark. Tomorrow, you can go today, you can go on Monday, you can go on Tuesday, but tomorrow they have an open day. So that means that they have more staff. They'll have, come on, nyama choma hapo nini. But just go tomorrow because Automark has an open day and they're saying, come and see the vehicles that we have in our yard. We have very many new models, latest models in the market. Come and see them. Pre-owned motor vehicles. And also you can bring your vehicle for some service checkup and they will check your service, check your vehicle and tell you how it's doing. What you may need to think of investing in soon, what you may need to change immediately, and so on and so forth. Automark is on Popper Road, and this is South Sea. We call it Bellevue. When you get to Kebs Gate, the Kenya Bureau of Standards, opposite it is the gate to Automark. Ama namna gani?
Hivyo.
Tuko pamoja? Hapo sawa? Kauko sawa niko sawa.
Somebody sang that song, didn't they? Who sang that song?
Very the storyteller.
And guess where he'll be tomorrow? We're all going to Nakuru, and we're trying to see if the good senator will join us. Choma Nangoma is happening tomorrow under Radio Maisha. We gotta go.
I think I've exhausted my quota of Nakuru County this year. We were down there for the rally.
Boss.
And I don't think the county can entertain us anymore.
This one is Choma Nangoma.
This is Choma Nangoma, Edwin. Calligraph.
Huyo ni mzito. The OG.
The OG himself.
A bit too soft for me, Otile.
At times after the reggae comes the blues. It is necessary to do it.
Then you have Mbiri the storyteller.
Okay, I like his stories.
You have Ben Soul. Nadia Mukami.
Yeah.
You can see it.
I can see myself.
It's all coming clear now.
Saru and furthermore.
Saru ni mzito. You should have started with Saru. You should have started with Saru because you would have had it at Saru.
Now that it has come, imagine all of those people lined up, star-studded cast coming out in Nakuru County, Rift Valley Sports Club. It's happening tomorrow. It's only 800 shillings. www.ticketsasa.com. Find your way to Nakuru. Let's do like that. Fun, partying, music, Choma Nangoma, Nakuru. It's going to be one for the books. Let's do it.
Ticketsasa.com. Get your ticket today. And you can also win a pair of tickets.
Yes, you can.
If you do what?
If you send the word Choma to 24338.
24338. The word Choma, you stand a chance to win a pair of tickets for Choma Nangoma tomorrow, Nakuru County. Senator Edwin Sifuna is the senator for Nairobi City County. He is also the Secretary General of ODM. He is also Kinara.
The word you're looking for is Kiranja.
Kiranja, that's the one actually. Yes. I was looking for Kiranja. He's the Kiranja, the whip.
Naibu Kiranja.
The deputy whip of the minority in the Senate.
Yes.
Welcome to Kenya's Big
And
Conversation.
a big friend of the show.
Yes, and a big friend of the Situation.
Yes.
Karibu sana.
Asante.
Good to have you again here.
It's always nice to be here.
Yeah. This week's Proverbs are from the country of Burkina Faso.
Okay. There's a lot of trouble there. So.
In fact, that entire region, even into the Sahel, is actually referred to as the Coup Belt.
The Coup Belt.
Yes.
Okay.
It's like one hears of coups more than one hears of anything else.
Correct.
Yes. Hunger is better than shame.
Hunger is better than shame.
Yes.
As simple as that.
I don't know.
And that's a proverb.
I don't know. Sounds like a proverb from somebody who's never been hungry. For me as a lawyer, I disagree strongly. Wewe sikia aibu mimi nikiwa nimeshiba. No, hunger is more shameful than shame.
The problem, City, is that you're giving this proverb to a lawyer politician.
hakuna aibu
Politician
kwa
and
chakula.
shame like this.
Not politician and shame. Food and shame. Those two things.
That there's no shame.
You can shame me when I'm full.
Let's start with a politician and
It's
shame.
okay.
Now imagine somebody shaming you when you're young.
Imagine. It's insult to injury.
Nothing. But what do you think they're saying, the Burkinabe?
I have no idea. I mean, you know, there's this view that you should have some sense of pride, and in Luya we have a saying that hunger can cause you to split firewood at your in-laws' place, which is
An abomination.
it's an abomination.
Hebu say it in Kiswahili.
So afadhali ujikaze kimwanaume usikie njaa. You know, there are things that are not allowed to be done at your in-laws. Even if you are oppressed, for instance. Yeah, you can't go to your mother-in-law's latrine. No, it's not allowed. Yeah, so I get where the Burkinabes are coming from.
Hey. No, the splitting firewood at your in-laws. That one is tickling me completely. Because I'm actually envisioning.
You're trying to picture it.
Umetoa shati umebaki na vest.
Unasema hii chakula hivi.
Unang'ang'ana na kuni.
Yeah.
Okay. Senator, you've been very busy, in all the work that you've been doing, and also vocal on all your platforms, including on your X.
No, please don't call it X. I don't think we should be encouraging Elon Musk. I think he has totally ruined that platform for many people. Twitter was, for me, the best source of news. It's very easy to interact with. Follow the accounts that are serious, that get you information immediately. I don't want to say this when I'm seated in Standard Group, but nobody reads newspapers anymore. It's easy to just click a link on a story that you like, because you're not going to force feed people an entire document. No, people are going to look for the stories that interest them. And Twitter for me was that space where you could have those conversations with people. And for many of us, I remember when Twitter was new and there was this phenomenon of big wigs. Like there used to be people who used to have this big following and they used to set the agenda. It doesn't happen anymore. These days, content is king. You could have one follower, but the things that you're saying will make that tweet be seen by thousands of people.
You're an influencer.
Absolutely. So Elon Musk comes in and he changes the entire, place. I didn't believe some of the things he was saying. I didn't believe he was going to do it anyway. Actually, like changing the name of the space. I hear he wants to remove the unblock button, which is important for people like me. But by the way, I don't block people on Twitter. Because I realized when you block someone, it's like a badge of validation. Then they post the screenshot of you having blocked and say, I told Sifuna the truth until you block. What truth? And for me, really, I have gotten to a place where I realize, like these people they call trolls, people who just wake up. It doesn't matter if you post a photo of a cute baby or puppy. They just insult you. Like it has nothing to do. It has nothing to do with the beautiful kitten that I've posted. So I discovered, like those people, you never block those people. You just allow them. You just ignore them, because ignoring those people is extremely powerful for me. Like it doesn't matter what you say, And then, like for people in the political space, in the public space, people are really nasty on social media. But when you meet them,
they're completely different.
They are completely different people. They're like, mahesh, leo sasa unaniwacha aje? They are the same guys. So, so for me, I think we shouldn't validate Elon's,
I actually don't have a problem with what he's doing.
No, but
bringing some sanity into like all those things that you've said. People,
some of the things
fake
that
followers, and
some of the things that he has done, I agree with, like the question of fake followers, fake accounts. Then there was a question of, and then what they call content moderation.
A platform gagging people.
Absolutely. I think they went too far with, say, kicking President Trump out of a platform. But also you have to balance it, because the people actually get hurt from some of the things that are posted on social media, and you have to have moderation. I saw the president talk about TikTok. By the way, that is my position, that you deal with the bad eggs. You don't ban an entire platform in the country. I was a bit taken aback by people who are, beginning this push to ban TikTok. And, this country doesn't give you much. So there's people who have found that space and they're making some little money. That introduction of Ndu, I almost laugh every time I hear it, that she's Nigerian by birth but Kenyan by choice. Like, who chooses to be here? Because this country is really tough. Like, when you talk to young people, it doesn't do much for us as a country. And you find like a little space where you can thrive, you're making some coins immediately. These guys have done nothing for you. I speak to young people and they tell me it's easy for me to understand. For instance, you've built a road, let's say the Eastern Bypass. And because of the infrastructure that you've built, I've put up my butchery there and Kenyans are coming to eat meat. If you tax me then, it makes sense to me because you've done something to help my business. Now, what have you done for these young people? I asked one time my friend Khalwale if he knows what a light ring is. And of course, he was very confused. These young people on these spaces, like they pull themselves up by the straps of their boots, find a place where this country can make sense for them. The country has done nothing. The government has done nothing for you. I'm telling you.
There's a digital superhighway that's making it possible for you to have access to the internet across the country.
That fiber optic line, for instance, the fiber optic cable was not landed by this regime.
Of course it wasn't.
That's what I'm telling you.
Of course it wasn't.
But when it was landed, when the people who landed it did not impose a tax on it saying, yes, I've done this for you. No. Today, we're having a conversation about students who are supposed to report to the university next month. And it's chaos. People are unable to, afford the fees that is required to take their kids to school. In other countries we visited, you go to Denmark, for instance, the government takes care of you from the day you're born. Your mother is going to receive maternal care. You're not going to die or you're not going to kill your mother just coming out of her, Then they take you through school. There's fantastic healthcare. They take you through school for free, all the way to the university. When you start making money, they come and take 50% of your salary. Nobody complains. Public transportation works. Everything just works. In fact, the students in the universities there are given a stipend. When I was there, it was about 100,000 shillings per month for your sustenance. This is the countries where you should choose to go and do. Don't come here. Why are you here?
Edwin, Senator.
So on X, you said recently,
on Twitter,
as recently as the day before yesterday,
yes,
it appears sense is starting to prevail. The backtracking on the disastrous G2G oil importation program, return of fuel subsidies, the backtracking on privatization of sugar mills, writing off their debts, backtracking by the regime on privatization without parliamentary approval are all indicators that our noise works. We'll keep pushing the remaining issues, especially on cost of living. Now that we drag the ostrich to the table, we will not allow it to leave until it hears us out. They will throw snide remarks and insults to try and trigger us, but because this isn't about us, we will trudge on and make sure your message is delivered. Sort out Monanchi issues, and you're welcome to insult us all day. All right. That's what you said on X. Say it now on the Situation Room.
Yeah, so I think everybody understands the history of this matter of national dialogue. It has been a very difficult journey, a long journey to, drag these colleagues of ours, our counterparts in the government side, to that negotiation table. It's a long story. Luckily for you guys, you work in media and you followed this story from the time when we went to Jivanji, and our issues have never changed because we are supposed to be representatives of the people. I was elected a constitutional mandate to represent people. When I stand up to speak anywhere, even here, I don't come here to bring my own issues on the table. No. People expect that because I am the one who has been given the voice to be able to voice the concerns of the people. So from the day we went to Jivanji, we said, gave government some time, said, kindly address these issues because this is what our people are telling us. And sometimes, City, it is very confusing to some of us when you see something so clearly. Like there's a bottle of water here. I don't understand how somebody on the other side is seeing a bucket. You know, sometimes you even question your own sanity. Are we? Is the problem me? You know, are the people lying to me? Is this what the people really want? Because I don't understand. For instance, here in Nairobi, we were elected by the same people. Yeah, the same people were given 6 ballots. They cast for the member of parliament and the senator and the women rep and so on and so forth. How is it possible that the people who elected all of us can give different feedback and instructions to their senator and to their women rep is a different story? How can they be telling me that life has become very difficult for them, that if it is possible for me to delay the pain of extra taxation, I should? And then they actually go and tell the women rep that this is what we want. So we get to a point where we have been able to give timelines and say, please address these issues. If it is possible, return the subsidies, let the economy improve, and then you can impose this new taxation. And our colleagues say this is the usual noise from the opposition, and they say there's nothing that makes sense that is coming from your mouth. And so we go to the streets. We have all these demos, and they are very expensive demos in terms of the cost of life, the cost of business, the cost of property that is damaged. It is very, very expensive. So I compare it to the ostrich who has his head in the sand. And my responsibility really was just to drag that ostrich's head out of the sand so that they can listen to what the people are saying. Okay. And to a large extent, I feel like we succeeded.
The realities that you speak of, I mean, it's clear. I don't think there's anybody in the country today who would deny that the cost of living is an issue. It doesn't matter what side you're on. Obviously, we know that the political games that are played in between would make it seem as though one side is raising an issue and another side is downplaying the same issue, right? Now, what you've said, though, is that the protests towards inaction, not the protest about the cost of living, the protests toward inaction of this issue have actually yielded some kind of positive result.
Absolutely.
So you can now draw a line between protesting or constant insistence on doing something about an issue and action in Kenya, right?
I agree.
What are we seeing that is fueling this now most recent sentiment of yours that can show us unequivocally that if you protest and you insist on a particular thing, something then will actually be done about it?
Yeah. So I actually believe that you cannot ignore the voice of the people. You can pretend not to hear the voice of the people, but it will get to you at some point. And I also believe that many of us know what the objective truth is. Like you said, everybody can agree that the cost of living is high. So what makes me, as a member of Azimio, see that the cost of living is high, and therefore when the vote comes before the House, I vote no to extra taxation, and yet a member of parliament from, say, Central Kenya or Rift Valley who supports the government votes in the totally opposite direction. It makes us question ourselves, who really is listening to the people? You know, are these members representing the people? So we go through this painful process and we get our brothers to the table. And my position has been, because it is very easy for us to trade insults. It's very easy to insult Sifuna. You stand up every time and you can say all sorts of things you want to say. But when you see people concentrate on insults and derogatory remarks, it means the conversation about the issues of Mwananchi is difficult for them. So we have said, because we paid such a high price to get to this table, and we know that the conversation on the table is heavy for some people. They want to drag us back to the easy bit of shouting at each other and insulting each other. What we have said is that it doesn't matter what people like Gachagua say to us, because they think they have figured us out. Like there's things that you can say to Sifuna and he will absolutely be triggered and walk out. We are not walking out. We are saying, because we are bearing a message, we are not there to represent our own issues. You can insult me all you want, but I will make sure that this message gets to the table. I like movies. I watched, of course, all of us, I think, have watched the movie 300. We know, like the scene from the encounter between King Leonidas and the messenger from the Persian king, used to call himself the God King, at, let's say, the village well. You know, spoiler alert. That messenger died delivering that message. But he did his job as a messenger.
He delivered the message.
He delivered the message. And although King Leonidas kicked him into the well, at the end of that movie, King Leonidas was lying in the dirt. He was dead. But the message was delivered. You understand? So for us, really, let them throw these remarks, because I think they have the opposition figured out. Like, there's things you can say and Sifuna will just storm out. I'm not storming out. For this one, we will make sure that they hear us. We want the Kenyan public to know that we presented their issues to the table, and it is these people who refuse to provide solutions to these problems. And I said, for as long as you solve the people's problems, like you've listed all of those things. I have been on this show and I said, noise as a tactic is overrated, but it also works. Where I come from, again, my brother, we don't keep chicken, we live with chicken. So one of the things we learned very early on is that noise can save your chicken. When you're seated outside and you see your chicken is there with its chicks, and then there is a hawk coming, you know, you might not have the time to run to where the chicken is and physically beat the hawk. But if you make noise, that hawk will go away. So in all those instances, my brother, Eric, you will recall, the government or the cabinet sits and decides that they are going to, privatize all government parastatals without the input of the representatives of the people. And we stand and we say, no, these are things that you've documented. Yep. And I remember on that particular issue of the sale of, say, the sugar mills, I stood up together with members of parliament from Azimio. We were the first people to say, this one cannot happen in a representative democracy. At the very minimum, the representative of the people must have view of the transactions and a say on it, you know, because these are public assets. And we couldn't make sense of, for instance, why a cabinet that has people from Western Kenya, sugar growing, the sugar belt, would actually sit silent and allow such a cabinet paper to be drafted. The chief cabinet secretary, Musalia, comes from the region. We have people like Ababu sitting in cabinet. We have people like Nahumicha sitting in cabinet. How is it possible? Like, there is no way, City, you can sit, if I am present as Sifuna, and then you are making decisions that are to the detriment of the people. At the very minimum, the minutes will record my very strong objections, you know. So it didn't make any sense that such a decision would be made. And we stood up and we said, no, this is wrong. And I remember going to Western Kenya and telling the people there that on this particular decision of sale of Nzoia sugar and Mumia sugar, make a list of all your children, all your sons and daughters. Column A, column B. Sifuna, on the sale of Mumia sugar without parliamentary oversight, what say you? Yes or no? And start from, you know, they call themselves kingpins and third in command. Start with those ones. The small people like me, put me at the bottom. Yeah, so what does third in command, Speaker Wetangula, say on this one? Yes or no? And you can see that from that public pressure and the noise that we made, that decision was overturned. We come to the question of this so-called G2G, government to government oil deal. The private sector, like for me, I like to hear from experts, people who know things more than you, because it doesn't matter how clever you are, you don't know everything, you know. So you sit with people from KEPSA, you sit with people from the Kenya Association of Manufacturers. They take you through these things and they tell you, this is the problem with this particular deal. How is it possible that I can sit and listen to these people, the industry experts, and the government is ignoring them? Even on the finance bill, how many memoranda were presented from the people who actually do that business, even on this KNTC importation of cooking oil and so on and so forth? Have come out very strongly to say this thing is not, it doesn't make sense. You call something Mama Pima and then you sell it for 185,000 shillings, which Mama Pima can afford 185,000 shillings for that machine. If you go to Kibra, if you go to Mathare, Mama Pima has existed for years without machines. Ana Pima na macho. Yes. If you want a quarter slice of bread, they don't take out a tape measure. Have you wewe umeshainunua mkate quarter? Umeshai kuona huyo mama akiwa na tape measure? Anaangalia na macho na anakupimia na unakubali. Yeah? So you tell us you want Mama Pima business, then you go and bring an expensive machine. How? Anyway,
but you're saying the noise is working, Senator.
The noise works.
Let's take a break. Then we can make some more noise after this.
Absolutely.
It's 8:30. Kenya's biggest conversation this Friday, hosting Senator Edwin Sifuna, the Senator for Nairobi City County, and also the Secretary General of ODM, and also the Deputy Minority Whip in the Senate. We are talking about what they've been doing as Azimio. And the question we are asking is Azimio noise bearing fruit? And is it making the Kenya Kwanza administration sit back and listen? Okay. We'll also open up the phone lines at some point to hear your feedback on this. Good morning.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
You think you can guess the year?
2007. That's when the theme song, that's when it premiered for the James Bond movies.
You're half correct. But in terms of guessing the year?
Okay, if not 2007, then 1963.
Oh, now you're just throwing things, eh? You're throwing the sufria and everything outside.
The Spice Drive. Big hair and the biggest hits from the best decade.
Tune in to the Spice Drive with me, Edward Quatch, 3 to 7 in the PM.
The Spice Drive, only on 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Damn.
The sun is up in Nairobi at 15. We'll see highs of 26. 28 will be the high in a sunny Nakuru at 16. And we'll see highs of 25 in Nyeri, highs of 26 in Eldoret. 29 will be the high in Mombasa. And we'll see highs of 30 in Malindi. It's 22 in Kisumu, 21 in Kakamega, 21 in a sunny Kampala, and 26 in a partly sunny Dar es Salaam. 12 degrees in cloudy Johannesburg. And 25 and cloudy in Lagos. 22 and sunny in Kinshasa.
Spice up your life.
All right, so still looking at traffic here and there. Up and about coming in from the Thika Superhighway. Just at Survey now is when it is bumper to bumper all the way through to the junction going towards Wangari Maathai or Murang'a Road. You'll be fine after that. Traffic coming in from Limuru Road is going to touch a little bit on Wangari Maathai, so that's going to pack up as well. Also, Kangunda Road is busy right about now. It's all going to touch on Outer Ring, and that traffic that was coming in from Cabanas towards North Airport Road out towards Outer Ring is also piling up some. All right, we're in traffic hour. We'll be out soon, but for now, that's what's happening. Spice FM KE, talk to us there on X.
Chilled Spice. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself. Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
The Situation Room this morning, Eric Latiff, Okoh, CT Muga, and the good Senator of Nairobi City County, Edwin Sifuna. His ex is at Edwin Sifuna.
I thought you were going in a different direction.
Okay, let's talk about the G2G.
Yes.
What concerns did you have or did you hear from the market on the G2G oil importation?
Yeah, I think it wasn't my concerns. It was the concerns of the oil marketers that it was not going to result in any reprieve to the consumer. And you can see that, in fact, it hasn't helped. The argument then was that because, there was shortage of dollars on the market, that this G2G was going to provide some cushion, not just to our currency, but also to, our daily payouts in terms of our expenditure as a country. That the payments would be delayed somehow, and maybe we would have some reprieve. But the oil marketers doubted that. They thought that it was better to allow the existing system where there was an open tender system, and the private companies would be able to bring in this, cargo for us. But you can see it is not working. Even on today's, this is a Business Daily today, we have another 1.7 billion fuel scandal because I don't think the government knows what it is doing generally. So we are happy that even the question of the subsidies, we said, please cushion Kenyans for a bit. The economy is going to improve at some point because some of the shocks, the global shocks, at some point will be resolved, I hope. And we can wait the storm out. But while we're waiting the storm out, can you please extend some reprieve to the suffering Kenyans? So we are not here to gloat that, oh yes, we told you we were right, or that why not for us? No, that's not what we are doing. We're just saying we are happy that sense is prevailing. because sometimes, as I said, it makes you question your own sanity when things that appear very obvious don't make sense to the other party, and sometimes you just think, they say a lot of things about us, but one of the things we have decided, City, is that we will allow you to insult us because we know you did not come to the table of your own volition. We dragged you there kicking and screaming. So we will give you an opportunity to shout, scream, insult us, but when you finish, you will listen to us.
You'll find us here.
You'll find us here. We are just here.
But on this issue of subsidy, though,
yes,
what's new?
What do you mean by what's new?
Is there anything new that you would say that this is as a result of the pressure?
Yeah, it is as a result of the pressure, because you will remember the argument for us was that, yes, the subsidies were very expensive, but they were cushioning Kenyans from exorbitant prices at the pump. And the problem with fuel is that it's very volatile. Immediately the prices of fuel go up, everything else is affected. I was reading a report here. Kenyans are consuming less fuel, actually. Many Nairobians have abandoned their vehicles because they can no longer afford. And it has an effect on even the revenues that the country then, collects. So our position was, please continue with the subsidies until we can see some light at the end of the tunnel. They said they are no longer going to subsidize consumption. Said, let us give our farmers fertilizer, and in 6 months' time, we will have cheap maize and everything will come down. How many harvests have we gone through? I have grown maize. I have grown maize.
How far are you from harvesting?
That's what I'm saying. I have grown maize. It doesn't take a year. Yeah. From the time that we were told, initially there was a consignment of fertilizer that came from I think Russia. Yeah, and we were told now this one is being applied to our farms, and in a few months' time, like 6 months ago, they were telling us in 3 months' time we'll be harvesting. It's now August. It's a year after the election. We have not harvested that crop. So they told us they were no longer going to subsidize these things. But the fact that they have come to that realization that even this new tax they imposed, the 8% on fuel, has a negative effect on everything. So people are buying less fuel. People are leaving their vehicles behind. I was speaking to my friends at EABL. People are consuming less beer. So you impose a tax thinking now this is where you're going to reap.
It's going to help.
Yeah.
So you think it doesn't?
It doesn't. If they showed me the sales figures, significant drops in sales.
But on this one, though, the Petroleum Development Levy has been applied even after the election.
That's what I'm saying.
Even in this
it is the exact same thing. It doesn't matter what you call it.
Yeah.
Say a rose by any name, it's still a rose.
What I'm saying is they didn't stop. They might have talked
at least
about
in public. Yeah, that's what I'm saying. In public, they were saying they were no longer going to subsidize
the
fuel.
PDL was still being applied.
So what has changed?
That's what I'm asking.
That's what I'm asking you.
Where is your pressure?
What has changed? Why have they brought it back?
If the Petroleum Development Levy was still applied on the pump prices in March, not on petrol, but on diesel.
But that's what they were saying.
And all this. And
that's what they were saying. They actually took it.
Still being applied.
They stopped applying it on certain products.
Yeah.
It was not uniform on all petroleum products. I think there was kerosene where they retained the PDL, but now they've returned it
diesel
to
as well.
Yes,
and then
they've returned it to everything. Yeah. So that is the change. That is what is different now.
So if we're seeing these changes, whether they're minimal or they're hitting you in the face, if they're happening as a result of the pressure that's being put, whether it's being put in the public or on individuals, in the corner, if that is happening and it's bearing result, and maybe in the future you'll see the ostrich actually now has come in the full glare of everybody, why then have talks?
Because the pressure doesn't come only from maandamano. Even this public pressure, people having these conversations in spaces such as this, is important. There's not only one way to apply pressure. Public pressure is applied in various ways. So for us, it's an opportunity to put that issue on the table in a manner in which maybe they can listen and we can listen to each other. Instead of me talking from a platform in Likoni and you answering me from a platform in Nanyuki, let's have that conversation on one table. And we are so focused that we must achieve something for the Mwananchi. And that is why we are saying, because it's not about us. It's not about us. Let us have give this particular process all the due respect that it deserves. Ignore these noises that are coming from people who we know are making that noise because the conversation on the table is difficult. It is very easy to insult people from pulpits and from public barazas, but tell us why the fertilizer subsidy is not working, why the price of unga is still high, why do you think it is fashionable for you to be taxing Kenyans to the bone the way that you're doing. Those are difficult conversations. They would rather not have that conversation, but because we have a message to deliver, we will allow them to throw tantrums from time to time. You will not hear us answer them or run away from the negotiation table, but at the end of a tantrum we will be there to remind you that these are the issues that Kenyans want addressed.
Is that going to be today is Friday?
Yes.
They have until today.
Yes.
To come up with the agenda.
Yeah.
For this new fresh round of talks.
Yes.
The other one in which you are a member.
Yeah.
Just collapsed unceremoniously.
Yes.
This time, do you think that is going to be the primary agenda?
Well, for me, City, you know, one of the
accountability. City,
yes.
Is that one?
Oh, sorry.
This one is.
Eric, yes.
Do you think the issue of because this is about accountability. You talked about fertilizer subsidy. Let's track back and see whether that subsidy was actually applied to the needful farmers. You talked about this and the other. Are those going to be the issues, or are we going to actually discuss the position of a leader of official opposition, entrenching prime cabinet secretary, and these other conversations?
One of the most frustrating things for me as a member of Azimio is that it doesn't matter how many times we say what our agenda is. People still want to define that agenda for us. From the time we had that meeting at Jivanji, our agenda has never changed. We had 4 issues on the table, and they remain the 4 issues. Eric, it is surprising that even when they are the ones who are bringing the Kenya Kwanza agenda is the one that talks about offices.
Yes.
For instance, they know for a fact that Musalia's office is unconstitutional. They want to use this process to essentially sanitize an unconstitutional office. We have not spoken about any office in our 4 agenda. We said we want an audit of the IEBC servers for the election. We want a discussion on reduction of the cost of living. We want a reconstitution of IEBC in a bipartisan manner. And finally, we said we would want to stop interference of government in political parties. That's our agenda. It has never changed. We have never added a thing. And when we were in the last bipartisan committee, every team came and drafted their agenda. It was surprising to us that the office of opposition leader, that proposal is from Kenya Kwanza. It is not us. We have not asked for any office. Our 4 issues have never changed, and I see them on podium saying, oh, these people want mukate nusu nini. In fact, last time we agreed with our team that the first agreement we want to draft, we want to take a very big page like this and write no handshake. Then everybody signs and we lodge it with whoever. We can lodge it in parliament, give copies to you in the media. Kwanza hiyo ituondoke, because I don't understand how I can be saying I don't want something and you come and tell me that this is what you want. I don't want it.
That's why I'm asking.
Secondly,
that's why I'm asking the question. Do you think that will be an agenda?
Now, for me, let me tell you, because this is bipartisan.
Yes.
For me, I want to tell the country and I want to tell you, without fear of any contradiction, Azimio issues have been 4 and they will remain 4. None of those issues involve anybody getting any office or any slice of government. And those are the issues we will bring. Now, because it is bipartisan, I cannot dictate to those guys what they bring. They are the ones talking about offices. They are the ones talking about Musalia's office. They are the ones talking about the office of official opposition. They are talking about entrenching CDF, which is something that was not there in the beginning.
Yeah.
They are talking about, which is the other one? The gender question, which is something that the country has struggled with for a long time.
Yep.
And the most cynical thing I've seen in this country is that now people, I don't know where people get the courage. We have gone through a very difficult process to get these guys to the table. We were not sleeping in our houses. Some of us were being hunted like animals. The tear gas I've inhaled is enough for a lifetime. And when we were doing that, wearing sufurias on the head, people who were criticizing us and look at this fool, he's a lawyer, why does he have a sufuria on his head? Now they're saying we also have our issues. Like, who is your mother? Surely. who raised you? Like, where do you get the courage to say now, we also want to discuss the question? See, you also undermine for those issues.
It's bipartisan. They come to the table, right? And somehow, because it's bipartisan, it's a give or take.
Yes.
this issue of leader of official opposition actually ends up being adopted as an agenda.
Yes.
And it's discussed, and somehow they come out and they say we've got some white smoke, and we've agreed that yes, we can find a way of creating an office and call it leader of official opposition. But you had said that, on the other side, your preamble is no handshake.
Yes.
Are you saying that Azimio would say, because we are the minority and leader of opposition would obviously come from a minority, because we are not interested in this, we are going to defer this until after 2027?
Yeah, you can make a framework agreement. You see, for me, let me tell you what will make me most happy is for us to address the question of a reprieve to Kenyans in terms of the cost of living now. If I get something for the people first, then if you give me something else, there's no problem. I don't have an issue with that. But the product of a bipartisan process is usually not amenable to amendments, So we are saying for us, you judge us by the content or the issues that we have put on the table. Don't judge me by the issues that have been put on the table by the other side. And if we can get them to agree that yes, we're going to have a reduction in taxes, we're going to backtrack on the 8% fuel tax, we're going to remove the housing levy, we're going to remove all these pain points for you, then really, if they say they want to see an office of opposition, why would I say no? I will not say no.
You'll occupy it happily.
I will occupy it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mheshimiwa, what is the significance of all these discussions being anchored in law?
The significance is that nothing really takes effect if it does not have the force of law. So, gentlemen agreements in this country don't work. I think you have lived enough to see that
MOUs.
Yes, you cannot agree things across the table like this and then not expect that out of the goodwill of people. Because as I told you, these are reluctant negotiations. They have not come to the table freely, of their free will. They have been dragged there.
Okay.
So you have to secure whatever agreements you make in law so that at the expiry of that goodwill, and you can see it's very tenuous, it can expire any time, given some of the conversations that are going on in the country and some of the remarks that are being made by the leadership of Kenya Kwanza. The goodwill is very tenuous, and there's no guarantee that it will last forever.
There's a different conversation that one hears, and the conversation is perhaps given a lot more light with the presence. Two things. One, the comments that have been attributed to the American ambassador to Kenya.
Yes.
And the visit of a gentleman called Senator Coons.
Yes.
A man who comes from a state where the current president had been senator of.
Yes.
So, one cannot miss out or speculate on the significance of this.
Yes.
The gentleman was here for some time.
Yeah.
Is there significance in any of these things? A, with the ongoing talks that we currently have? Is there any significance to the outcome that is anticipated as a result of these things?
I think there is significance because you see, we live in the so-called global village where international relations have a bearing on what happens in our country just as much as it does in other countries. And you cannot largely ignore the voice of the international community in domestic affairs because many of these countries have interests in the region in Kenya that they would like to protect. What we found unfortunate from the remarks of Meg Whitman, the ambassador, is that she seemed to conclude a matter that is actually under discussion. And from the perspective of somebody who had not spent enough time in the country, we felt that she made that judgment without having engaged robustly and in greater detail with the issue itself. So that there are some controversies that you should allow countries to settle by themselves. It is not an easy thing for us to agree that the election was free and fair. We would want, and in fact this is why we have been insisting as Azimio, that the truth exists somewhere. The truth exists somewhere, and people have told us, but you went through the court process. The court process does not establish truth. It just establishes fact. And facts are not necessarily the truth. I'm telling you, you have been in media for a long time. We know for a fact as Kenyans, you see this thing called election results and election servers are our property. We want to look at them. And you see, like for me, there's no controversy, even if there were controversy as to whether I won the Senate seat. And my competitor said we want to recount the ballots. I am very comfortable doing it. because I'm confident in my victory. The truth is in somewhere, because when you take matters to the court of law, and the challenges around our presidential petition, the timelines, the quality of, the analysis of the evidence that is presented, there are things that can be missed. But what cannot be missed are the actual results in the server. All we are saying is, establish this, open this thing, and we see, yes, there was no interference. Because an allegation has been made by people who are experts on these matters, better than me, that if you were to open that server, you would find evidence of interference. Now, if you open and you don't find, I'll be the first one to say, Mr. President Ruto, congratulations. And we move on. But how can we deny ourselves the truth? How? So for the ambassador to make that statement that was, in our view, determining a matter that is still in controversy, we thought it was unfortunate. And we know that even as from the diplomatic perspective, there are limits to which you can go in expressing views about matters concerning the country to which that is hosting you. What
if she was basing her statement on what you call the fact?
That's
not
what
necessarily wanting to deal with the truth.
That's what we are saying.
According to what we have seen, the fact is this was a credible election, and she qualified it by saying it was even declared as so by the Supreme Court.
Exactly, because now that is
the election
that is where the problem is.
As far as
that is where the problem is, my brother, because we have seen court pronouncements that were wrong. And in our own country, there's a famous case of, I think they're called the Central Park 5. Some young men who are alleged to have raped some woman in Central Park in New York. And those guys served, I think, over 20 years in jail. And later, evidence emerges that, in fact, the court was wrong. So the fact that you have gone through the legal process, the constitutional process of ascertaining a winner, does not mean that that is the truth. The court can pronounce itself given what it is, what is available to it. And one of the things that people forget is that this information came to us after the fact, And even in court practice, sometimes you can reopen a case where, for instance, if you went through a murder trial and police never found, say, a murder weapon, and they let that guy go. And finally, they find the knife. It has the prints of the murderer, and so on and so forth. You can reopen and say, yes, now, in light of this new evidence.
But that is after it has been redetermined.
That's what I'm saying. After.
In the prevailing period,
yes,
this person remains a murderer because they've been adjudged so by a competent court.
No, they remain innocent because they have not been found guilty by a court.
I'm talking about when somebody has been convicted by a court.
Yes.
And declared a murderer and sentenced. All right?
Yes.
They remain a murderer.
Yeah, they do.
Until
they do. I didn't say they don't. But what we're saying is you cannot then make a final determination just on the basis of a court pronouncement. And that is where she gets it wrong. Because there are certain nuances in countries, in societies, my friend. Wakenya wanajuanga nini inaendelea. There are things that we can't even explain to these foreigners. Yeah? So, I don't know which is a classic example I can give you. But in Kenya, tunajuanga nini inaendelea.
That's why you say this is Kenya.
This is Kenya.
Okay. Yeah. There's been sentiment from several quarters that Kenya then remains in a state of limbo.
Yeah.
Because, where are we going? What are we doing? In terms of moving on, in terms of development with the new administration in place, things can really move. Is that a satisfactory place to be in? It doesn't matter what side you're on.
No, I have always held the view that, yes, noise works, but noise will not stop paint from drying. If you are a development-oriented government, I have always given the example. If you fill a grader with diesel and you're going to do a road, it's not going to refuse to move because Sifuna is somewhere on radio making noise. You proceed with your programs. Proceed with your programs by all means. You are the ones who have the instruments of power. But the fact that there is a discussion somewhere about some of the things that you're doing and people have alternative views does not mean that you cannot proceed with the agenda. They are proceeding with the agenda. We made all the noise we could with the finance bill. We didn't succeed. We succeeded in some areas where there were some adjustments to the bill, but we didn't succeed largely in making sure that the punitive taxation was not passed. It doesn't stop anything, Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't. It works to varying degrees, but we will do our job. We must, he himself, Ruto himself has said, he expects a very robust, opposition. And that is what we are doing. There's nothing more to it. But it's unfortunate that in this country, some of our God-given rights, the rights in our constitution, can actually get you killed. Nobody needs to die in these demonstrations, by the way. No single property needs to be destroyed. They need to understand that this is something that can actually be done in a peaceful manner. And we have demonstrated in the past that it can actually be done in a peaceful manner. Nobody needed to die. And that is what I was saying, that it was a very expensive process, because we've seen the families of the people who are killed. Some of them were not even in the maandamano. There can never be a justification for you to send police to drag people from their houses, bludgeon them to death. I mean, what justification is that? In fact, if those young men had committed any crimes, take them through that legal process that we talk about. But there can never be justification for you to do that just because people are expressing themselves. And I have advised them that if you have a problem with a provision of the law or the constitution, you have the numbers in the house. Just amend it, scrap Article 37, so that we don't have these pyrrhic rights that are just on paper, but we can't exercise them. It was a very difficult period for us, Latiff, if you remember. People openly talking about shooting us, killing us, assassinations. It's not a pretty thing to be in. And I remember being caught in the worst demonstration when we were blocked in Embakasi here, in Kware. I saw death with my own eyes. I mean, because people are just firing into your vehicles, projectiles. You don't know if they are bullets. And people joke around and say, "Oh, it's just tear gas." If a tear gas canister is fired to you at that range at which we saw that policeman breaking a car window and shooting, what do you think is going to happen to you?
Well, we have the case of one member of parliament, the deputy minority leader of the National Assembly, who got injured because from that kind of an incident. That
scuffle, and it was nothing. It was nothing compared to what we saw here. I'm telling you. So that is the problem we have. We pretend to be a democracy, but then we don't allow for that democratic expression to take place.
Is that going to be part of the agenda?
Which one?
Talks?
No, I have said it.
Demanding accountability for what has happened. The price that has been paid so far.
Absolutely. I mean, so it is not right.
And demanding accountability for it. If it's a police officer who acted outside of orders given to him by seniors, face the law. If it's a senior who gave those orders, whoever gave an order that ended,
you and me know that in a democratic state, that is exactly what would happen. But those seniors you're talking about, senior people in government, CS Kindiki was.
I'm asking whether it's going to be part of the discussion, because even after the handshake of 2018, that never became a discussion.
That's what I'm saying. I wish.
Nintendo is still a pending justice issue.
I wish my brother.
5 years of handshake.
I wish my brother that there would be accountability.
Stay on.
I wish so.
Stay on, Senator, for the next hour. We will open up the phone line so people can contribute. Let's engage with the Senator for Nairobi City County, Edwin Sifuna. He is the Secretary General of ODM. He is also the Deputy Minority in the Senate. Keep it here for more. Good morning, 9 a.m.
Spice up your life.
Good morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Aseto. The Azimio and Kenya Kwanza National Dialogue Committee is set to meet today over the agenda of the talks. This comes after the technical teams from both sides met for deliberations on what will form the agenda of the talks from Tuesday to Thursday. A motion seeking to legally establish the National Dialogue Committee has been forwarded to the Senate after it was adopted in the National Assembly. The Senate will consider the motion Tuesday next week with the view of adopting it. The technical teams from both sides were last week tasked with framing the agenda items for the consideration by the committee. The teams were briefed on the expectations of their respective sides and assigned to synchronize the proposals from the two sides. The NDC is expected to recommend appropriate legal legal and policy reforms on issues affecting Kenyans in line with the Constitution and respecting functional and institutional integrity of state organs. Now, Head of Public Service and Chief of Staff in the Office of the President, Felix Koskei, has fired a warning shot at procurement officers over corruption in government ministries and departments. Koskei, who presided over the official opening of Heads of Procurement and Supply Chain Management Forum in Mombasa, said President William Ruto's administration was determined to rewrite the course of Kenya's history by reversing the graft trend, and that ongoing efforts in this regard are already bearing fruits. He challenged the officers, both operating in the private and public sectors, to endeavor to be counted among a crop of professionals that ensures that procurement is a profession that is respectable. And President William Ruto will today preside over the groundbreaking of the County Aggregation and Industrial Park in Nyeri County. The industrial park, which will be located less than 5 kilometers from the county headquarters, will serve as a hub for agricultural processing and manufacturing. In a statement by the Ministry of Trade and Lake Region's Economic Bloc, has identified Nyeri as among the lead counties for the development and promotion of agriculture. The project will also provide a link between farmers, industries and the market, both nationally and internationally. While welcoming the project, Nyeri Governor Amos Nyaribo noted that the industrial park is the first step towards placing the county on the world map. And Cabinet Secretaries Moses Kuria of Trade and Kipchumba Murkomen of Transport say the reopening of cargo flights at the Eldoret International Airport will boost regional economy and exports. CS Murkomen said these will play a critical role in expanding business and elevating the quality of life of residents of Eldoret town and the expansive Rift Valley region. He said that his ministry is working with the private sector in extending the airport's runway and construction of warehouses within the facility. CS Kuria said that his office has engaged global logistics investors and government stakeholders on how to improve the ease of doing business in the country. The mining Minister and Blue Economy Salim Vuria says lack of funds is the main reason for delaying the completion of the construction of the Liwatoni fish processing plant. The construction was originally scheduled to be completed by August this year. Vuria saying that the financial challenges that hit the country forced the construction to be stalled. Speaking when he visited the area where the factory is being built in Mombasa, Vuria said the construction is above 50% and will be completed at the right time.
Kandarasi alikuwa hajalipwa. Kwa hivyo kazi kidogo ilitatizika kwa sababu ya mambo ya fedha, lakini mwezi wa 6 akalipwa milioni 200, na ndio maana sasa ana uwezo wa kuweka kasi katika kazi hii. Na pia bajeti ya mwaka huu kuna milioni 500 nyingine ambayo Mheshimiwa Rais ameidhinisha kwa mradi huu. Kwa hivyo tuna hakika kabisa kwamba huo muda uko sawa, na tunapanga pia kusiwe na pengo lingine ili huu muda uwe ni ule ule.
On the suspension of issuance of licenses for mining activities, Mvurya stated that negotiations continue so that reforms can be achieved in that sector.
Basically, we are also discussing, I think we have a lot of discussions in cabinet to see how we can be able to, with those reforms that we've already done, to see how we can be able to open the licensing process in the mining sector. And I think very soon we should be able to tell you how we are progressing in that. And that will also help us to deal with the entire area of illegal mining so that then we organize this particular sector.
The polio vaccination exercise enters the second day today. The vaccination exercise is aimed at combating the resurgence of disease in line with the collaborative partnership involving the World Health Organization, UNICEF, and the Ministry of Health. The development comes days after the Ministry of Health announced the polio vaccination campaign across 10 hotspot counties, which kicked off in Kiambu ahead of spread into the areas including Kajiado, Garissa, Kitui, Machakos, Tana River, among others. This is Newswire. Dennis Aseto, good morning.
.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
Okay, coming out of traffic hour in about half hour or so, we're looking at still some on the Thika Superhighway coming in towards the Pangani underpass. That's about the worst of it. A little bit of movement on the southern bypass heading out towards Langata Road, and then further on towards Gong Road. That looks like it's going to be a bit sticky for a while, so just, eyes up on that. Coming off of James Gishuru, it's then spilling over towards Wayakiwe, and this whole Kitisuru coming in from United Nations Avenue and Ruaka, then towards Limuru Road. That looks pretty busy still for now. On the eastern part of the city, Jogoo Road was doing the thing, but looking a little bit better now as you get out towards Landis. Just at that nook of Landis and Kamkunji, the roundabout. That's where you see the worst of it. For now, let's try to keep things moving this morning. Talk to us about what may be going on where you are. Spice FM, KE.
This is The Situation Room, the home of hard-hitting political commentary and penetrating insights about the state of the nation. This is a talk radio experience like no other. The Situation Room, a place for hard truths, debates, and elevated conversations. The Situation Room, witty, political, engaging, deep, controversial. In the room, we have C.T. Muga, researcher, academic, seasoned political observer, a fountain of wisdom in these politically uncertain times. Ndu Okoh, Nigerian by birth, Kenyan by choice, communications expert, Pan-Africanist, a truth seeker and believer in people power, and Eric Latiff, agent provocateur, the man in the chair, seasoned journalist, news hound, a man who believes in punching up, not down. This is The Situation Room,
7 minutes
the only way to start your day.
Conversation for the final hour of The Situation Room this week, Friday, the 25th of August, 2023. Edwin Sifuna, the Senator for Nairobi County, is still here and will soon be opening up the phone lines. What we're asking is the pressure from Azimio finally bearing fruit on what's happening in the country? Is Kenya Kwanza bending because of Azimio's pressure? The senator has been saying, all right, so look at the things that are happening now. First of all, look at price stabilization of fuel at the pump. Then look at the government backtracking on its push to privatize sugar mills. Also, privatization without parliamentary oversight and very many other things that are happening. It's because Azimio has been out there, it's been loud in parliament, outside parliament, pushing and saying no to this. And he says, finally, what you're seeing is a result of our work. City, the day's proverb tafadhali before we go on?
Yes, hunger is better than shame. Mheshimiwa disagreed.
No, I agreed.
Comprehensively. He said, so long as I'm full. You can
shame me as much as you like.
Okay, Ziti, what do you think? Is what we are seeing as a result of Azimio pressure?
Azimio pressure has definitely contributed significantly, but the affairs of this country and the happenings therein are often a factor of more than just the opposition having a say and those in power resisting. As Mheshimiwa himself has already alluded to, we are in a global village, and because of the interests of some of our friendly partners, they also have influence which is brought to bear in situations such as ours, because if we are unstable, then their business interests are also unstable. And it has also been said, Kenya is significant, one, because of its geographical location, but also it's because of just the weight and the magnitude of investments that are here. And if you look at the way Western nations position themselves, it's not just Kenya, it's the region. So a destabilized Kenya destabilizes all the plans they have for the region, and that is not something that they would like. The problem is, and this one I agree with Mheshimiwa, when someone like the ambassador, the American ambassador to Kenya, makes a statement such as the one she does, yes, she may simply be looking at the court proceedings and saying, look, if the court pronounced itself this way, then surely all these ducks are in a row. But she misses the salient point of our politics, because we have observer groups that come not to Kenya but to this continent, and some of the most, if I may use a Kenyan term, shambolic elections that we know occur, and they give those elections a clean bill of health, and they say it was, generally. So essentially, it's like when it comes to Africans, they have a low bar. So long as, not too many people die, not too many things are in the offing, then it's a credible election. It would have been infinitely better if she hadn't said what she said. But having said that, there's a reason why she said it. It's not as though This is I disagree with Mheshimiwa. It's not that she doesn't know what she was saying. She knew exactly what she was saying, in her opinion. And there's a reason why she said it.
What's the reason?
There is need to show support for the president and his position. Because how then do you have a country where your partner, your foreign partner, also cast aspersions as to your presidency? How does that work out? There has to be a definitive statement that we support this government. A definitive statement that the process that were followed, we believe were legit and they were proper, and this is the elected leader of this country. It's important. Yes.
The leader of Azimio is an experienced politician and a statesman who has engaged with such processes many times before. Do you think that's what he heard? And that's why he was also kicking a fuss?
The agenda...
Why are you supporting him?
The agenda that someone in the opposition would have if they're a politician, the best you can do is take a guess. Because what you see and hear is often not what is really happening. There's something else that you have no clue about that is in the offing. We discussed in this very same studio these matters of the discussions and this. And you heard my pronouncement. I said, these groups will meet, they will talk, and a conclusion will be arrived at. This was what, a month and a half ago? There is an African proverb about frogs and toads running in broad daylight. Usually, when they shout loudly, there's danger somewhere. They know something is happening. So every time I heard the government, people who are affiliated to the government speaking loudly that there'll be no talks, I knew there were going to be talks. I knew. For they were actually confirming to me that there were going to be talks because the noise was too loud about there not being talks.
And the outcome, we can see some semblance of what is going to come out of these talks.
One has to see it because at the end of the day, it isn't as though our Western partners are going to just side with the government. They will be. If that was so, why then do they have conversations with the leader of the opposition? Because they're having conversations with everybody. Why are they having conversations?
The reason is very simple, and this is one of the criticisms that has been extended to these Western powers, is that for them, the most important thing is what they call stability of a country. They want a stable, quiet, passive
Is it stability
population.
According to their definition?
To their definition. According to their definition.
What
because
works
for them, they would want as little noise as possible for them to be able to do business here, to secure long-term contracts with government for their companies back at home, because these ambassadors really are not just political ambassadors.
No.
They are also economic ambassadors. And they would like regimes that then, have this semblance of stability. And they like, even this democracy talk is very hush-hush when it comes to African countries. They would prefer if they had this so-called stable leader who's here for 20, 30 years and they are happy to secure long-term contracts for Monsanto and Bechtel and the others. But they, that is where the problem is. And you yourself have alluded to it. In fact, in 2017, before our Supreme Court overturned Uhuru's victory, the Observer Mission had given the election a clean bill of health, not knowing that there are things that go on in this country that perhaps only Kenyans can know. It's like when you visit, when we were growing up, when you visit somebody's home and you sit there as a guest and you see, this house is very clean, the children are very well behaved. It is because you are there as a guest. That is why why the house looks clean.
Or when you eat chicken, rice and chapati, it is because you are there. Yes.
Sometimes a visitor would be sitting there and looking at, these children are so well behaved, they are eating so nicely, chewing nicely. It's because your mother shoots you an eye.
If you were,
the guest will never see that eye, but you are the only one who knows you're being terrorized. You're not enjoying the meal. The guys are like, look at the children, they're so happy together, very well behaved. Hey, my friend, there's things that we know. So sometimes these guys they miss those nuances, and the problem is that they then front load this question of stability. But even in the US, even their own concept of democracy has been challenged. There was a time when I think the world believed that American democracy had matured. They've come a long way. I think they have done 200 years of democracy, and they became complacent. They didn't think that they would ever see a point where a sitting president would call electors in Georgia to tell them to change election results. As we speak right now, a former president is being indicted for exactly that. You know, they never thought that after the pronouncement of the Supreme Court or the declaration of results that there would be an assault on the House of Congress. We saw it happened in our lifetime. So it's not as if even for them things are perfect back at home. But all we are saying is, please, there are some things you just accept that you don't know. I cannot be an expert in American social life and political life. I go there, I make my observations, I leave. But here in Kenya, like the example I've given you of the house, a lot of things are happening that you don't know. Yeah, even the cockroaches cooperate on the day the visitor comes. They say, hii nyumba haina hata mende, my friend. Ukitoka tu.
Accountability, Senator, is one of the things that the Houses of Parliament are supposed to do is oversight. And okay, we've seen that. We've seen cabinet secretaries coming to the National Assembly, coming to the Senate. And it's part of the oversight. Well, you amended your standing orders so that you can ask direct questions to this.
Yes.
The Senate being one that is supposed to be taking care of devolution matters and oversighting devolution, do you think it would be better if you actually had governors coming?
Governors do come. Actually, City,
not just being summoned.
Eric, I keep calling you City. I don't know.
I don't know why.
They live in the same house. They start to look alike.
They start looking alike. I think it's the beard.
Not just being summoned to appear before committees to respond to specific issues, but coming the way cabinet secretaries are now coming.
Now, you see,
even
for this question of cabinet secretaries appearing before members of parliament, it is actually a vindication of us, because we were saying these things during the BBI process, that as representatives of the people, we need to interact with these policy and decision makers in a more direct route. The model that we have does not work in terms of giving us that close scrutiny of the people in those positions. And they refused. You remember they rubbished all these things, including that question of the office of opposition leader. It was one of the proposals in the BBI process. We have objected. We in the Senate have objected to the amendment of the standing orders to allow cabinet secretaries to appear in plenary, because we believe that it is amending the constitution through the back door. We believe that because the constitution already provides a mechanism for the interaction between members of the executive and parliament, then for you to rearrange that entire setup, you have to actually amend the constitution itself. But they went in a roundabout way, a shortcut through the standing orders and amended it. We in the Senate filed a matter before the High Court to interpret for us that decision, whether it was constitutional or not. We are waiting for the judgment. It is coming in October. And because we filed that particular case, we in the minority do not attend those sessions where the cabinet secretaries appear. But these cabinet secretaries can be summoned because that is the power that the constitution grants both houses. You can summon them before the committees, and the committees are the best avenues for oversight in my own experience. I am a member of the Public Accounts Committee of the Senate. I am a member of the Energy Committee. I'm a member of the Transport Committee, and I'm very proud of the work that we've done in these committees. I'll give you the example of CPAC, for instance. We get to interrogate the audited accounts of each county, and we go through line by line how money has been utilized. And in those interactions, we have been able to learn a few things and then propose a few things in terms of trying to move the country forward. So, for instance, when you interact with county governors, one of the challenges of devolution has been late exchequer releases, that we as a Senate pass something called a disbursement schedule. It says, so Nairobi County is entitled to 20 billion shillings annually. This is how this money is going to come, because there needs to be some degree of predictability for the administration to plan. So it says on the 15th of each month, Nairobi will receive 1.7 billion shillings. And then you spread it across the 12 months, the 12 months, right? But what has been happening is that counties would go 3-4 months without exchequer releases. And then we discovered during the interrogations at the county government that KRA, first, Treasury delays in releasing money. Then the county governments are unable to pay salaries. And if they are unable to pay salaries, they cannot remit the deductions, the statutory deductions to KRA. And then KRA levies a penalty on those delays in payment. This is your left hand. It knows Treasury has not released money. KRA is imposing penalties on counties. And that money has to be paid by the people of those counties.
Yeah.
So we dragged the CS of Treasury and the KRA to one table before the Public Accounts Committee, and we asked them what is the rationale here, and they gave a public commitment that those penalties would no longer be imposed on counties because this is something that they know is wrong.
Back to my question,
now,
and I get what you're saying.
Yes.
My question is, do you think it would be more beneficial even to the public if governors actually came before the floor of the Senate?
I don't know about governors.
Answer direct questions, because now you see the Senate is dealing with counties. And you're talking about accountability at county level.
Yes.
Right? And looking at how counties are doing, what is happening in the counties. So if governors actually are the ones who appear before the Senate and all senators interrogate, a governor of a certain county is the one who's coming, say Kirinyaga this time.
Yeah, I personally feel that the committees give better room for deeper interrogation of documents than plenary. There's factors of time. There's all sorts of factors. I have seen the benefit of committees. Actually, the work of the House mostly is done through committees. And the beauty with committees is that a governor can appear to answer a specific question. So, for instance, you appear before the parliamentary accounts. You know you're coming to interrogate the audited accounts of the county, how money has been spent in a specific financial year.
Yeah.
You appear before the agriculture committee. You know this is what you're coming to answer, and it can be very incisive.
So you can prepare
and targeted. Absolutely, you can prepare, because you see also these county governors and their governments also need to work. You cannot spend your entire time in parliament. But when it comes to cabinet secretaries, just like I held the position during BBI that in fact we needed to revert back to that parliamentary system where cabinet secretaries are actually members of parliament and they can answer questions. And we gave the example of a time when we had prime minister question time, and you've seen it in other democracies. It is one of the best tools that a member can engage with government on a day-to-day, because sometimes when you have this system where you have to summon people, it is usually like you are doing something after something has happened. It is not like on a day-to-day. You can ask the CS today, you are in parliament, because he's in parliament with you daily. You can interrogate matters that are live every day. So the system right now is Moses Kuria will go off on a tangent as he's want to from time to time. Then you have to file a motion to say, we would want to see the CS appear before us to explain this. By the time that motion comes to the floor, it's 3 weeks down the line.
Right.
So it appears like you're just morticians. You are talking about things that happened 3 weeks ago. But if they are there every day with you, he goes off on a tangent today, in the afternoon, you are with him in the house.
Even as you talk about things continuing to happen, and here we're talking about a very vital role that Parliament plays here. And one of the things that has come up in the last few weeks is that a lot of the reports from the Auditor General have been coming out.
Yes.
And they've been, quite astonishing in terms of the kind of money that has been lost, whether it is at county level, whether it is at department level, agency level, across board. It's ridiculous. And then we keep asking the question, okay, so then who's supposed to ask the question? It comes right back to Parliament. Parliament is supposed to be asking questions about these monies that have been lost and then making recommendations after that information. Senator, the money that is being lost in this country is bleeding the cow to death.
Yes.
And you see the things that are being fought here, and we can tie all of this together. The things that are being fought: high cost of living, inability to institute subsidies because the government just does not have enough money to put around. Meanwhile, there's a bleed happening here. You're giving the cow grass, but it's bleeding from the leg. Same cow. The questions that are to be asked, where the bleed can be stopped, recommendations that can be made so that the bleed actually doesn't happen in the first place. Will we see this happen? That recommendations beyond scrutiny and investigations will happen for this to stop.
We do make those recommendations. I remember recently the governor of Nairobi appeared before the Senate committee. I think we were interrogating financial year, is it 2018, 2019. One of the things that happened with Nairobi is that the governor who was there from 2017 to, I think he left in 2020 or 2019, Governor Sonko, had created an atmosphere that it was impossible for the county government of Nairobi to ever appear before the Public Accounts Committee. That every time he showed up, that meeting would be adjourned because there would be, chaos. And it was designed to ensure that there is no conversation about the accounts of Nairobi. So when Sakaja appears, he is the CEO now of the county, but we are discussing a financial year when Sonko was there. So it comes out from the Auditor General's report that, for instance, the then governor went to Mombasa and he paid, I think, some money for security. He had 2 battalions of police protecting him for, I think, 2 weeks in Mombasa. And we made that recommendation that money has to be recovered from Sonko. Yeah, because it doesn't make any sense. Why would a governor need 2 platoons of police protecting him in Mombasa for 2 weeks? It doesn't make any sense. Then you charge it to the county. So it's not as if we don't make those recommendations. We do. When the Auditor General has flagged something and he says this one was theft of public resources, we even interrogate projects. The Auditor General will go and say, yes, you said you're building market stalls. Or a market, and then they provide to you photographs of that market, and somebody tells you this thing is 20 million, and you're just like, bro, please, tafadhali, hii sio soko ya 20 million. Sasa mnaitisha deeper interrogation from EACC, and in fact in our committees we have an officer seconded from EACC seated there in the committees. We tell her, yes, this one we are forwarding to you. Immediately you commence investigations, you make sure there is an officer from Treasury, there are officers from the Office of the Auditor General. So we have this entire team that is helping us as a committee to be able to make those recommendations. The problem is that the downstream process is also very slow. And that is what frustrates people. That a recommendation such as that can be made, then it takes years. And it's just forgotten somewhere in the legal process, So it is a bit tough. But I think it is a mechanism that can work, especially if the downstream processes are streamlined.
Is it possible to catch up with the latest Auditor General's reports?
It is.
Because currently you are dealing with what?
It is possible because like yesterday
you're dealing with the 2019-2020.
We have committees. Okay, the minority side are in charge of 2 very important oversight committees. The Parliamentary Investment, the Public Investments Committee and the Public Accounts Committee. So for us as the Public Accounts Committee, where I'm a member, we are doing 2020-2021. In the Public Investment Committee chaired by Osotsi, they're also doing 2020-2021. So it is actually possible to catch up. And that is one of the things that we are trying to say. There has been a backlog. When we joined the Senate, they give you a backlog of all the committees the counties whose accounts have not been analyzed. And Nairobi was one of the biggest problems because of the issues that I've raised here, that the governor created an atmosphere that did not allow for interrogation of those accounts. And even previously when he was a senator, the relationship between Kidero and Sonko as senator was so bad that every time, and you remember the drama that used to ensue, these things were covered live. We don't want those things. We don't want squabbles. We just want to sit as professionals and say we are looking at these accounts. We don't have to be friends. So there are counties that have been interrogated and there are counties that were lagging behind, but we can catch up. One of the things that you've reminded me about, there was a very curious incident just the other day. Was it yesterday or the day before? When Oparanya was summoned to the EACC.
Day before yesterday.
Yes. And they are asking him questions about 2013, 2014. It was very, very weird because as a matter of fact, Kakamega County, and I sit in the park, so I know, Kakamega County was audited in 2013, 2014, a very long time ago. Those reports were presented before Senate. The governor appeared before Senate, and those matters were already dispensed with. So it is not possible for you to come and say 2013, 2014 financial year, something that even the Senate has already interrogated and imemalizana nayo, that there are queries there, EACC, as the governor himself said, EACC never paid him a visit in the 10 years he was a governor. In the time that he was a cabinet secretary or minister, never. So how is it possible for you to come and start answering for things that happened in 2013 after all the constitutional offices and processes have been exhausted?
It's not possible. Like it's a very simple thing. Just go and answer the question.
That's what he did, but we are saying why? Because venye tumeongea juu ya huyu Meg Whitman, there's certain contexts that people might not understand. The president is supposed to be going to Western Kenya, and he made certain promises to the people there. And he knows the people will ask about those promises. For instance, he was very clear. He said is going to give 30% of government to the people of Western Kenya. Now, the people of Western Kenya are waiting for him with calculators, because everybody knows 30%
of 24.
Yes, of 24, So then he made very specific. The problem sometimes with politics is you should not.
But there was a condition. There was a condition. Deliver X amount. X number.
That's what we are saying.
Now, did you deliver?
That's what we are saying. Now the calculators. That's why people are waiting.
So you want to prorate
like this.
So 20% came from
30% was for X number of votes.
People are waiting for him with calculators.
If X number of votes are delivered, what is the percentage?
And then he made specific promises about Mumia sugar, about Nzoia sugar, about roads, So, and in fact, I remember one time in 2019 there was a certain national celebration in Kakamega, Buhungu Stadium. There's a very infamous road that Ruto was caught on camera saying this road is complete. Now, unfortunately for him, that road happens to pass outside my house in Bungoma. So I know for a fact that road is not complete. Then he backtracks in 2019 and he says, now we have instructed 2 contractors to be on that road. One to start from the Bungoma side and another one from the Kakamega side. Now, as it just happens, I use that road from the Bungoma side to go to my house. I have never cited that contractor, So he knows when he's going there. And he's being told that it's a bit hostile. Then some people within his administration feed him lies that, the people who are sowing discontent are these people. If you squeeze them a bit, they'll keep quiet.
Because again, kuna vitu tunajua hii Kenya.
Si ndio sasa ndio
It has worked before. Maybe it will work this time. Let's take a break. 28 minutes to 10. After the break, we want to hear from you. 0719-012-600. Do you think Azimio pressure is bearing fruit? Are we seeing fruits of Azimio pressure in the country's governance now? Automark, the sellers of the best pre-owned motor vehicles, have an open day tomorrow. Go to their place at Popo Road. This is in Bellevue, South Sea. See the vehicles that they have. Take your vehicle as well for some checkup and see the health of your vehicle. And then after that, head to Nakuru. Start with Saru.
It's going to be performing tomorrow at Choma Nangoma. It's happening in Nakuru County this time. The 4th edition of Choma Nangoma under Radio Maisha is happening in Nakuru County. And amongst others, Nadia Mukami, Calligraph, Otile Brown, all of these, furthermore, will be in the entertainment.
Moreover,
furthermore will be there. All right, it's going to be a night of fun, partying and music. Choma Nangoma takes place tomorrow, the 26th of August. Get your tickets for 800 shillings at www.ticketsasa.com.
This is the Situation Room, the only way to start your day.
Oh, finally! It's my Standard Courier delivery.
At Standard Courier, we know that your time is valuable. That's why we guarantee swift and efficient deliveries to your doorstep every time. Give us a call on 0793 599 684 or schedule your next delivery by visiting our website www.standardmedia.co.ke/courier. Trust Standard Courier service for all your courier needs. We deliver with pride.
All right, looking at sunny conditions in Nairobi, highs of 26 and lows of 14. We'll see highs of 29 and lows of 12 in Nakuru and highs of 25 and lows of 14 in Nyeri. Eldoret, we'll see highs of 26 and lows of 11. And it's sunny through Mombasa, highs of 29 and lows of 23. 30 will be the high with the lows of 24 in Malindi. And it's sunny at 26, going to highs of 32 in Kisumu. 32 will also be the high in Kakamega, where it's sunny at 24. Looking into Kampala, sunny at 24, highs of 30 and lows of 22 in Dar es Salaam. 13 and cloudy in Johannesburg, highs of 24 and lows of 8. Lagos is cloudy through Friday with lows of 25 and OC lows of 21 in a sunny Kinshasa. All right, Beijing, Friday afternoon is sunny at 28 and rain showers in Paris through Friday morning, 15 and cloudy in London, and at 23, New York Thursday night is cloudy coming into Friday, highs of 28 and lows of 22.
Spice up your life.
Much better now. I think we're out of traffic hour officially. Still a little bit of a hold up on the Thika Superhighway coming in through towards Pangani, and then Kangunda Road extremely busy coming in from that Roy Junction all the way into Njiru and then out towards Outer Ring, moving very, very slowly this morning. So that's still one to contend with if you're stuck there this morning. It'll open up soon enough, that's for sure. Into the CBDs where most of it is happening this morning through Friday. Let's talk, trying to keep things moving whichever way. Spice FM KE.
Business News with Spice FM.
I'm Dennis Aseto. The Kenya Civil Aviation Authority is currently hosting the 8th International Civil Aviation Organization Africa and Indian Ocean Week in Nairobi, following its selection by the International Civil Aviation Organization. The event brings together civil aviation authorities and other aviation stakeholders in the aviation industry from Africa, Indian Ocean regions and beyond. Kenya Civil Aviation Authority Chairperson Brown Ondego has underscored Kenya's regional leadership role in the aviation sector, hence the significance of hosting such an event whose outcome is expected to shape aviation in the region and beyond. Muga Group has expanded its range of products under Amana brand to include premium sugar, long grain rice and pasta. Amana brands currently includes yellow beans, black beans, roast cocoa beans, nyayo beans, green grams, basmati and bishori rice. The expansion is part of the 521 million shillings 3-year marketed positioning project by the firm to boost its corporate value and return on investments for its shareholders. NCBA Group net profit grew 20.3% to 9.3 billion shillings in the half year ending June this year compared to a similar period last year on improving operating income as well as a 21% slump in loan impairment charges. The lender had in a similar period last year earned 7.3 billion shillings in net profit. A 7% increase in operating income to 31 billion shillings helped lift profit to new heights this year. Listed superfoods producer Kakuzi has announced a 171.1 million shillings half-year pre-tax profit on the back of a difficult trading period due to prevailing macadamia global glut. The firm, which recently adopted a new corporate brand identity, enjoyed a more than double profit lift against its avocado export business, which posted a 654.8 million shillings growth, up from 288.6 million shillings posted last year. Speaking when he confirmed the half-year results, Kakuzi PLC Managing Director Chris Flowers said the firm's bottom line had been impacted by a 329 million shilling sectoral loss from its macadamia business. For Spice Business, I'm Dennis Aseto.
Spice FM Business. Mature, intelligent talk every morning. Spice up yourself.
21 minutes to 10. The conversation continues.
Mornings done right. 94.4 Spice FM, Nairobi.
0719-012-600. So there's a lot of work that Azimio has been doing, which is raising issues and saying this is wrong, this needs to happen. We want to see, as a government, this is what we want to see happening in this country as representatives of the people. And Sifuna is saying some of that is actually starting to bear fruit. Do you agree with him or not? Let's hear from you. 0719-012-600. The job of Parliament is to legislate, to represent, to oversight. We're also seeing like what was happening in the National Assembly the other day, with the Cabinet Secretary for Sport appeared to be in trouble.
Yes.
And is going to Parliament now to answer questions. And there are questions, that is specific questions that is being asked. How are you handling this ministry? How are you handling matters about youth and arts?
Yeah.
How are you handling matters about sport? Are we actually seeing progress? Do you think this is a concerted effort to paint him in a bad light, or is it the National Assembly finally rising up to the occasion and being bipartisan in doing its job of accountability and oversight?
Yeah, I think I was, one of the things I say is that people should not expect plaudits for doing their job or, doing what's right. But it is refreshing because, as I've said, we are like on an eternal quest for that objective truth. What is this one thing that we can agree upon as members of the opposition and members of those people who are in power? On the question of sports, I think everybody is in agreement that there's a problem. In my other life, I happen to be the informal patron of the Kenya Lionesses, which is a women's rugby team in Kenya. When this team was going for the African region qualifiers in Madagascar just a few months ago, would you believe I am the highest level government official, because as a member of parliament I'm also a member of government, who visited with that team before they left for Madagascar? It just doesn't make any sense. I have raised various questions on the floor of the house, even when they were going for there was a tournament they were going a few months back, I think it was in October in Uganda, and they call you and they say, we don't have this, we don't have that, there's no clarity when we are traveling, there are no arrangements, there's nothing, nobody from the ministry has come to see us, just to give them morale. I think there's a problem there, and my brother Babu has to pull his socks up. And for us, we have not fully realized the potential of sport, because the economy is not giving the young people any alternatives. If you look at the Kenya secondary schools games that were happening in Kakamega, look at the crowds that were showing up to just watch Shanderema and Muzingu play. It shows you that there is the interest and there's a talent. And if it is harnessed, because if you noticed, immediately the big corporates realized that there's a big crowd at Buhungu, they started appearing, advertising holdings here. That is how you make money from sports. I have given people the example. If you look at what the Saudis are doing right now, they have raised the level to unimaginable heights, because they are giving people ridiculous amounts of money to come and play in their league. But people don't know that the Saudis are now shining, a spotlight on their own country and on their own sport. That is exactly what you're supposed to do. It shocked me the other day that after, as your senator, fighting for increase of resources to Nairobi, there is not a single allocation budget line like this for support of the Nairobi sports associations, the boxing associations, the football associations, because we have registered county sporting associations. So I call my majority leader, I call the chairman of the budget, I call the chairman of sports in the county assembly. I asked him, how is it possible that you have never allocated this money? So one of the amendments that I'm dealing with to the law, I want to bring an amendment to the Sports Act and to the Public Finance Management Act to mandate counties, out of the money that we give you as devolution, you set aside at least 1% of that money for the sports associations. These guys come to our offices every time they have, like the Nairobi Boxing Association came to my office. They have a tournament in Vihiga in September. They present to you an annual budget. The annual budget is about 2.7 million shillings only. They have referees to pay. They have venues to pay. They have transport costs. All of those things. There is no single line allocation in the county's budget for them. That's what I'm telling you.
How does it happen, though? Because you see, the county budgeting process is a long one.
Yes.
There is public participation and input.
Yes.
I'm assuming that they've presented this in those committees.
Absolutely.
As associations.
Yes.
I'm assuming that they've also tried to lobby to those people that you've talked about.
Yes.
The sports committee in the county assembly, the other leaders in the county assembly. How does it pass all that?
I don't know. I don't know how it passes, but also it is a question of attitude. How do people perceive sport and the potential of sport to actually uplift the life of the people of Nairobi. So you have the Kenya Primary Schools Sports Association. They come to my office and they say the last time that they got uniforms was when Kidero was governor. And it just doesn't make any sense, So we have these kids who appear at the national games representing Nairobi County. and they look like they have come from sijui where. It is the shame that City was talking about. We should be ashamed, all of us.
Some of them are no longer. Those who received the uniforms
they are no longer. They're
in secondary school now.
Yeah. So what we want to do is the discussion about sport is a very serious discussion. And the tragedy was that when the Sports Act was passed initially, there was a sports fund that was established under that act.
Yes.
And the purpose of that fund was to do exactly what we're discussing here, to support grassroots sports associations such as the ones that I've mentioned. And initially, the bulk of the money that was going into the sports fund was supposed to come from sports betting. And this is why I say, the people you elect to Bunge must be people who understand things. They must understand things.
And see them in context.
So initially, people did not believe or did not appreciate the potential of sports betting. Now, if you are a person who understands things and the nature of life, you would know that sports betting is one of the biggest industries in the West, in the world. So, this guy is sitting in Bunge say, pesa yote ile tutatoa kwa sports betting, tutaweka kwa hii sports fund, wacha waende wajenge hii vijana viwanja na nini, because they don't know the potential until
they see
the day they saw the numbers. They discovered, kumbe there is money here. They go and amend the Sports Act to now say money from that fund will be used to support universal health care. It's rubbish. It's just rubbish. And that is how the sports fund died. Now, the bulk of the money is going to support UHC. Sports has been totally neglected. Nothing is happening anywhere, So one of the things we need to do is to have this conversation on reversing that amendment to the Sports Act, because it is detrimental to our young people. So I don't think that it is a bad thing to see when members of parliament come together and say, no, for this one, enyewe we made a mistake. We didn't make a mistake, but kuja ujitete. And my views about the caliber of cabinet secretaries is public. I said it from the beginning. I didn't believe that most of them had the capacity to occupy those offices. I did tell Kenyans that they will embarrass you. It is happening on a daily basis, and it will continue until the day that the appointing authority and parliament realize that, kuna ile urafiki. Yes, you helped us campaign. Yes, you are a good mobilizer on the ground. Yes, we need to see this face in cabinet to represent your people. But at the very minimum, please, can you demonstrate that you know what you're doing in your docket?
Have the competence.
Even the president himself stands in State House and he says, some of you characters here. I know more about your ministry than you. But what did he expect? The problem is him. What did he expect? You see, our individual capacities are known. I believe that especially those of us who are in the public space, there are things, City, if you hear that Sifuna is going to head Kenya's Atomic Energy Development Authority, you just say, Bana Sifuna, please, just do something.
Even if you're on the energy.
Please, even, surely. You are my friend, Dio.
What
do I know about
Let's go to the phone lines. I've got George from Mombasa who's on the line. Good morning, George.
Good morning to you. How are you doing?
Very well, thank you.
Yeah, my name is George.
Yes.
Yeah, and I'm calling from Mombasa. And on the topic of discussion today, about Azimio impression on the government, and that the government, that Kenyans have seen changes, especially because of pressure from Azimio. I don't think that is very right, and because the issues that Kenyans are going through at the moment, especially talking about the high cost of living, this is not a new discussion. We've had this discussion in this government. We've had in the previous government. Kenyans have been talking about the high cost of living. I think the discussion about the high cost of living is a discussion that politicians use to get to power. Then they backtrack on the promises they made to Kenya. And Azimio is not really playing a very important role or a very serious role on matters that are really affecting Kenyans. And this is because, as you remember, there was a time when the key issues raised in the first attempt on bipartisan talk, none was touching on real issues that were affecting Kenyans at that time. It was until the Kenyans complained an uproar from Kenya. It is when now they brought in the issue about high cost of living and the real issues affecting Kenya. So, as a Kenyan, and this is our honest feeling about this bipartisan talks, that it is not in good faith, and it is not really going to look at issues that are affecting Kenyans. These are issues that are really touching on politicians and their wish for power and other issues, but they are not really touching on the issues affecting Kenyans.
Okay.
And this is why, the number one reason why I believe these are not issues that are really affecting Kenyans, because as you remember, the first reading of the bill in the National Assembly, some key Azimio leaders were conspicuously missing in the National Assembly, and they never told Kenyans why they were missing in those discussions. And that's why we believe that actually these discussions are not really focused on
they're not about us.
That are really affecting Kenya.
Okay, thank you, George. We hear you. 0719-012-600. Let's hear your views on what Azimio is doing. So, Senator, he says, well, he hears everything that you've said, but he doesn't believe that Azimio is really championing the cause of the public.
I don't know what else we can do, because, they say that a lie has been repeated so many times that these talks are about something other than what we say they are. At some point I'm even, I ask myself, what other language can I use? It is not factual for him to say that initially when these talks began that they were about something else. I would have loved for you to ask him, when this thing began, what were we saying? Because he said after public uproar is when we brought the cost of living. If I remember correctly, at the initial meeting at Jivanji, I think it was in February, way before we started Maandamano and the others, we gave a 14-day ultimatum to government to address those first price of fuel, price of unga. If you remember, this thing was about unga from the beginning. And then those 4 issues that I spoke about, they have never changed. And he says that our pressure does not yield, is not the result of this thing. I gave the example of the cabinet decision to privatize mills and other government parastatals without parliamentary oversight. What would have happened, Eric, if everybody kept quiet? What do you think would have happened? By now, we would have been talking a different story. All of those things would have been sold. Everything would have gone, So these discussions, it is like when somebody comes around and realizes that what he was doing was wrong and decides to take a different course. I said from the beginning of this show that we are not here to gloat or to take credit. We are saying you are now doing the right thing. And as I said on my tweet, that sense is now beginning to prevail, because sometimes we ask ourselves, how is it that I can see this thing as a bottle and my brother City is seeing a bucket? It doesn't make any sense. So when they come around and see, yes, this is what has happened. Number 2, and lastly on George, on the question of the vote in the House, first of all, he should know that it is of public record that the people who absented themselves without reason, especially those from ODM, are the subject of disciplinary processes within the party. Now, what I find baffling is that somebody would blame a member of the opposition who absented themselves and say nothing to the member of Kenya Kwanza who came there to impose the pain. You actually forget
I think all are in agreement about that one who imposed the pain.
Yes.
The question is about this other one.
That's what I'm wondering.
Who ought to have added the numbers.
Who should bear the greater blame? And by the way, because we know certain things, again, we have come back to this conversation, that even if I presented all my members of parliament on the floor, because they tell us, what are your alternatives? It is impossible for me to persuade people on the other side because they are voting machines. They have come to vote. Even in the Senate, we get so frustrated. You come prepared for a debate, then you hear the speaker calls you and tells you, these guys are saying we put the question. And we have to bargain. They say, okay, now we will give you 2 speaking slots. It's a house of debate. Why can't we debate these issues? And I am sitting across from my colleagues there, knowing that it doesn't matter how much sense I make.
Yep.
It doesn't matter.
They have their
It doesn't matter how much I cry on behalf of the people
callers on the line. Let's hear them.
They will not accept.
bribed.
Let's hear these two callers. Oh, one of them is gone. Kibet, call back. Evans in Nairobi, good morning.
Good morning, Latiff.
How are you doing?
I'm doing well.
Mm-hmm.
I wish to first of all appreciate the contribution of the Senator for Nairobi. What I can say from my side is that the Azimio Brigade has done a lot. Owing to what started at the beginning, the government would be a bit reckless without checks and balances, and I think they're doing. My contribution to the CS, the vote went on Thursday, I think, or on Wednesday. I do feel that CS Namwamba is trying his level best. I want to bring this to the attention of the Senator that people who operate in the ministries have stayed there for so long. And it's very difficult for a member, for a CS to come in and change those things overnight. Those CSs that have succeeded, the likes of the late John Michuki, the late Professor Magoha, and Dr. Matiang'i, the bulldozers, they push things hard. So for us to expect a cabinet secretary without a goodwill of the civil service to serve the people of Kenya, it's impossible. So I do feel that there is a lot at stake. We elect wrong people into offices, and when the right people speak, we claim they have not been given anything or they have not been fed. Currently, if Azimio is not doing anything, a number of members of the government or elected members from that side will do a lot of harm to this country.
Thank you, Evans. Thank you very much. He says yes.
Yeah,
but for your noise.
Absolutely. I'll go back to the example of the hawk and the chicks. But one of the things that I disagree with him is that the ultimate responsibility for the ministry is on the CS. And Kenyans don't expect that. I think we all are aware that there are bureaucrats in certain places that make the operations of or any changes to any institutions very difficult to do, to achieve. I know that myself as SG of ODM. There are things that are difficult to change within the party because of entrenched positions, entrenched interests, and so on and so forth. But the responsibility is for that CS to address his challenges to the public. People can tell when you're trying. I think people can tell effort. You see, even for us, the example that I gave in the Senate is that I know for a fact I am never going to convince Khalwale to vote with me. If I was unable to convince Khalwale to vote for 407 billion to go to the counties as opposed to 385, what do you think I will ever convince him for? And this is not money coming to Sifuna.
No.
This is money going to Kakamega. And he says he has received a phone call from State House to vote 385. But people know that I am incumbent. I don't have the numbers on the floor. Nairobians, the country knows Azimio has fewer number of senators, and that our friends are not amenable to persuasion, and that when it comes to a vote, I will lose the vote, but they want to see you try. Yes, that's all people are saying. So even the CS should be able to give it a shot and address the challenges he's facing. He said, yes, I tried to do this and this is the obstacle that I met. What do you guys think? And that is what I usually do. I go back to the people of Nairobi and explain to them, I have used English, I've used Kiswahili, I've used Kiluya. I am unable to convince Khalwale.
Thank you.
So what
do
you want me to do?
On the same note, if we had marshaled all those members, even the absentee ones, and yes, I know, I appreciate that you had, at least people would be saying, all Azimio MPs came and they spoke and they tried.
Yeah, but
now beyond that,
let me tell you,
the other
Eric,
guys what
let
they
me
did.
tell you, Eric.
So, time imeisha.
No. Some of this criticism is usually very unfair. Because the criticism should be targeted at the people who do not want to listen to you.
Both sides.
They are using
both sides. The side that has voted, the side that has introduced this bill has received its criticism. The side that ought to have contributed in pushing
let me say this one
also
point
gets
and then
criticism. I have closed the conversation.
Please
have a
don't
lovely
close.
weekend.
Please don't close.
Let's go to Nakuru.
No,
enjoy Saturday.
Now this time I would have made my point already. You're being
it's
unfair.
10 a.m. Senator Edwin Sifuna has been our guest. Have a lovely weekend. See you on Monday.
morning, this is Newswire. I'm Dennis Asset. The Azimio and Kenya Kwanza National Dialogue Committee will return to Bomas today over the agenda